excuse me, we have before us interviews with the following candidates for the Deputy Superintendent of Public Works. We have 3 different candidates for tonight. Melissa Miguel, Michael Page, and Anthony Pazziali. What we're going to do is we have a series of questions that we will ask each candidate. And we will ask the same questions to each. At the end, anybody on the council, if there's another question or a follow-up question, that can be asked at that point. When the interviews are done, then we will deliberate on whether who we might want to move forward to the actual meeting of the city council. We can move forward up to 2. So we can move 1 forward or we can move 2 forward. And that's completely up to us. Okay? And so at that point, then we will take a vote. But there will be complete discussion after the interviews. Everybody understand that? Okay, great.
Madam Chair, may I just
Yes.
one item? On the supplemental question list that you provided,
Yes.
I believe that questions number 10 and 11 are actually duplicates. Question 1 actually addresses question number 11, and question 6 addresses question number 10.
Oh, yeah, okay, so number 10 I will take off. Number 11,
Is included in question 1 of the pages we got. Second part of the question.
it is, isn't it? Okay, great. So take 11 out too. So we will add the supplement 1, 2, and 8. Okay, thank you. We have first on the agenda, Melissa Miguel. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't see that when I was looking.
I'll help you if you want.
We were gonna volunteer, Chip, but it was a little late up.
You're very helpful mood today, you know that?
Hello,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you. Hello. Hi, everyone.
I'm Councilor Campbell. I am the chairman of personnel, and I will ask everybody to go around and just introduce themselves. Councilor?
My name is Ray Papalato, and I'm the counselor for Ward 2.
Luke?
Councilor DeMambro, Council for Ward 6.
Councilor Joe Demers from Ward 4.
Jeff Dillon, President of Woburn City Council and also Councilor for Ward 3.
Good evening, Bob Perillo, City Councilor at Large.
Rob Toro, City Council at Large.
Chuck Viola, Ward 7, City Council.
Okay, welcome. We're
Thank
glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
So make yourself comfortable. We have a series of questions that we will be asking each of the candidates. The same questions for each, and then at the end, if there's a counselor that would like to have a follow-up question, they can ask you at that point. Okay? Now, really make full answers. Really think about what your answers want to be. Give us examples. This is your time for us to really figure out who you are, get a sense of how you're going to work.
Great.
All right? Please tell us about your experience in a DPW and public environment. Why are you interested in the deputy superintendent position for the Woburn DPW?
Sure. So what first attracted me to the civil engineering career is that we actually engage with the public, and our job is to actually, provide services to the public. So my first job out of school, I worked for GZA as a field engineer, and I loved it. I was out in the field. I did a lot of field work. I'm a firm believer that you really should see the construction of whatever it is you're going to end up, if you're going to be a project manager or supervisor. I'm really a hands-on visual learner. I did that for 4 years and realized I got a bachelor's degree from Rensselaer in civil, but being it's such a strong engineering school, we were able to do minors. So as an undergrad, I was able to get a minor in geotechnical as well as civil engineering. Once I worked for 4 years at GZA in the field, it was kind of time to figure out what I wanted to do, and I wasn't ready to sit in an office or a cubicle yet. One of my supervisors at GZA, her dad went to RPI, and she took a liking to me, and her husband was actually the head of the civil department at Tufts. And so I met with him, and I actually accepted entrance into graduate school at Tufts for a civil engineering degree. also with the concentration in soils geotechnical. Once I graduated, I went to work for Mass Highway, and I was there for 4 years in their geotechnical section. And I really enjoyed being a native New Yorker. I grew up in New York. I went undergrad in New York, moved out here for my undergraduate boyfriend at the time, and I had a lot of friends from college here. And I didn't really know a lot about Massachusetts, the lay of the land, and working for Mass DOT. It was great because you covered the whole state. My first assignment with MassDOT was really eye-opening. They took me to Martha's Vineyard, August on the ferry, and they were like, "Don't get used to this." And sure enough, that was the highlight of my my best project there. But I worked directly under the state geotechnical engineer for 4 years. I got to learn all about how Mass Highway does things. But again, I didn't really feel like I was helping my neighbors and friends. So I went to work for the city of Gloucester, which was a lot smaller, but it was really great to kind of dip my toe into the water. Once I talk about the scale of my current employer versus the scale of Cambridge, I have really grown in my career. I had a very strong city engineer that I worked under, Paul Keene, who really kind of took me under his wing. And because the volume of work there was much lower than communities closer to Boston, he had a lot of time to really invest in me. And I used to say to him, I felt like he was almost my graduate school advisor. Every project he would go through with me from a technical standpoint, why he would make the decisions that he made as the city engineer. But then that kind of got a little bit boring. You know, I kind of felt like I had learned what I had gotten from Gloucester and provided back to them all, you know, the mutual relationship had kind of exhausted itself. So then I went, previously I very briefly worked for CDM just to see what it was like to work in, you know, a consulting environment. Because I wanted to make sure I wasn't shortchanging myself. You know, I wanted that experience as well before I really, you know, start diving deep into my career. And they had me working in Kendall Square on a wastewater treatment plant in upstate New York. And I realized, again, I wasn't really touching friends and neighbors, and I wasn't making that impact that I believe civil engineers, our career was started to basically, you know, help the public. Can you drink your clean water? Can you safely flush your toilet? Can you travel on, you know, safe roads, compliant sidewalks? So then I went to work for the city of Somerville, and it was actually really great because they had a really small engineering department, and they exposed me to a lot. I got exposed to the Green Line Extension project while it was still in the development days. I got exposed to the Union Square redevelopment while it was in the development days. And I got a lot of responsibility placed on me, and I covered a lot of things. MS4 permitting, ADA compliance. We were on the verge of a consent order for Cambridge and Somerville are still partially combined systems. So we were working closely with getting, you know, the projects and programs in order to, you know, do the illicit detection and really work with the community to say these are the reasons why we're doing things. And I was exposed to a lot, and I was there for 2 years. And then the opportunity that I'm currently at came. Cambridge is a wonderful place to work. They are very fiscally sound. The scope of our projects run deep and large. The values of our contracts super high. I am currently in charge of the Chapter 90 program, so I help the city engineer to our street and sidewalk management program, and we do, you know, we actually just did this past summer, we did the complete survey of the condition of our asphalt and our sidewalks, and we use that data to help us then develop our 5-year plan of roadway reconstruction. We also use that to work with our utilities so that we also design from the ground up, because I've learned that residents do not like when you dig in the same place twice. So if we can actually forward plan from the ground up and work with the utility companies, Cambridge, like Woburn, I know you're partially water funded. We are, or from the MWRA or water. Cambridge has their own water. We are not MWRA supplied at all unless in an emergency. So I had to work with our water department. I had to work with the utility companies. I had to work with small contractors. I had to work with the universities. I had to work with the large contractors to get them on board. This is the 5-year plan. This is why we do it. We do also have, resident requests, and so you had to manage a lot of things in order to get these projects done on time, on budget, while also getting community buy-in. And I feel like when you really have a methodical plan and you could really talk to the whys of what we're doing, you really get community buy-in. It's very important to me. In my current employer, I want to say I probably do more community engagement now than I do engineering. We do 3 community meetings per street, per contract, and each street will have about 5 to 8 streets in it. And it is my job to go out and talk about the city council policies, the federal policies, maybe the state policies that guide our design and why we do the things we do. I'm also a huge advocate of being open and honest. Yep, it's going to be loud, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be noisy. You may not be able to use your water one day, but I am here as your guide to help you through this. This is my contact information. This is why we're doing it. And really be honest and open with people about what they can expect, how their street was selected. And again, we had a rhyme or reason as to why we did the things we do. Did I provide,
Yeah.
did I go off tangent a little bit? Or?
No,
I
that
know
was
I
good.
went-
We
my
might,
first
so
interview
some,
went really long, and I just want to be cognizant of
yeah, no,
of
no,
the
no, that was
time.
great. But you might end up answering a few questions
Okay.
on the
Yeah.
same thing, but that's okay. You've already going into a lot of this, which is good. Please tell us about your experience in the operation, maintenance, construction, and repair of underground utilities.
Sure. So what I liked, and I explained in my first interview, both the city of Somerville and Cambridge, their engineering departments that I've worked in sit at DPW. Not every community is laid out that way. So I have had a lot of experience working with the operation folks in Cambridge. Our water utility replacement there is completely governed by the water department, and I work in coordination with them. They have their own standard specs. They have their own standard details. So they are actually a partner of mine. When I am running my project meetings, I have to coordinate with them. What's your break history, your leak history, last time it was replaced. It could be 100-year-old main and be in great condition and they may not need it, or it could be one, but we got to make sure that we have that communication. What do you need? This is what I need. This is my timeline. What's your priority? This is my priority. For the sewer department, it has always been a little bit easier. When I worked for the city of Somerville, my role was actually to manage and oversee the sewer department. In Cambridge, I work alongside with my counterpart, who's the Director of Engineering Services, who's more in charge of sewer replacement, but they manage the utilities in the same way. You either have a 5 or a 10-year plan for your assets and how you're going to fund them, how you're going to do your community relations, and how you're going to work with your outside utilities, again, to make sure that we're going to work from the ground up. I'm big on communication. I'm big on, having project meetings when you need. I find them helpful to have them weekly. Our spokes in Cambridge require that. I explained in my first interview, I really feel like I have the capabilities and the knowledge to support, Jay and his staff over at DPW. What I do not have is how does Woburn do things? So we may have this great way to do things at work where I'm currently employed, and I will bring those suggestions to my supervisor about this is how I have historically done stuff, and this is how it has worked in other places. But I do respect the hierarchy of, an place of employment, and I would bring my suggestions and my experience and my knowledge as suggestions to my supervisor. This is what I've experienced has worked. This is what doesn't work. And then I would expect that my supervisor and I would have a conversation, and ultimately, they would make the decision, and I would understand to help me the next time around wherever I'm working to understand how decisions are made. I'm very collaborative. I always feel like you can learn from one another. So while I respect the hierarchy of the employment structure, the folks, I don't know if you noticed on my resume, I managed about 4 to 6 engineers. I've developed our co-op program from basically kind of, they would just show up in the morning and say, what are you doing today? I made it a much more formal structure, because I do believe we all have like unique skill sets, and we can all learn from one another. I have stuff that I can bring to the table, and then there's stuff that I'm sure, if awarded the position, I might show up and I might turn to my supervisor and say, I'm definitely more green than that, and I really would love it if you can share with me how you've done this in your experience. And, I said in my first interview, I probably have about 80% of what you're looking for. The reason that this job attracted me is I'm not ready to be done learning yet. I do understand, probably the last couple of years of my career, I may want it to kind of be, relaxing. I'm a little bit older, but I do feel like I still have stuff to learn. And because our scopes in Cambridge are so large, we have one person that does our MS4 permitting. So while I contribute to their job, and there's pieces of the MS4 permitting that I have done and I'm familiar with, and I sit into the meetings, there's really not that opportunity to take hold and be responsible, because there's one person that's kind of responsible for that.
Let me go on to the next
Yeah.
one. Construction of new roads, sidewalks, and snow operations.
Sure. So that's what how the Chapter 90 program is, laid out currently where I am employed, is we take this Chapter 90 funding, sometimes we take the RAP funding, we take city funds, we take a lot of funding sources and we put them all together because we believe in the complete streets method. I also do recognize that even the community I live in, really not everybody has that ability. So the scope of the projects that I have been in charge of for sidewalk and roadway reconstruction, full depth roadway reconstruction based on pavement and soil core information that we get during the design period. All compliant sidewalks, they must all be placed compliant, traffic calming, bump outs, raised intersections, raised crosswalks, street tree plantings. I sat on the committee for public planting, so I helped develop the tree planting specs for city trees, public trees. I sit on the commission for persons with Cambridge Commission for Persons with Disabilities, so I really understand the importance of ADA regulations and the need that we must meet them when we have public funding. I also sit on the Cambridge Pedestrian Committee, where I listen to and work with community members about areas that they may feel are not pedestrian friendly, and how can we work with the other modes of transportation. Cycling is a really big thing right now, and I get it, and the cycling advocates are really loud. But I had a city engineer I worked for, and she said to me, the best way to approach these sidewalk and roadway reconstruction projects is we meet the highest needs of all users. So on, a main road, the user might be a vehicle and an MBTA bus for a public transit. So we may have a little more need to design towards that. Where around a school or a senior center or a hospital, you may want to design a little more for pedestrians and larger emergency vehicles. So I kind of approach the design. I also like to do community relations and ask the people who actually live there, how do you use this street? I don't live here every day. So when we have flash flooding, all reason might say as to an engineer that this is where the flooding is. But when you listen to the people who actually live there, yes, Melissa, the grades may tell you that it's going to flood here, but for some reason we really have big flooding problems here. So I really approach these projects holistically, getting information and feedback from everybody while trying to do it like in methodical order, building from the ground up. Again, this city council is very different, and you have different, goals than maybe the city council that I work for right now. So my job is also to learn what are your specific goals on these projects, right? Talk to you, get to know you all. I did all my research. I kind of know backgrounds of all of you, but I didn't get into I really liked a lot of you spoke about transparency, and I'm a big on spending wisely, right? There's somebody out there spending my public money, and I just feel it's my responsibility to spend wisely. So there's a lot of things that go into answering kind of that question, but I really think the first step as an engineer is data gathering, you know? What's the mayor's goal? What is the city council's goal? What is the city engineer's goal? You know, what is the commissioner of public works, what is his goal? And then I feel it's my job as an engineer to kind of develop recommendations and say, you know, based on all of your feedback, this is how I would recommend we proceed as a team. I also mentioned in my interview, I respect that there are people above me who make the final decision, and they may not like my recommendations, and that's okay. But I believe in also communicating about, oh, how was that decision made? Why did you make that decision? Help me learn and grow. And so you asked about snow operations. And I have to say that's probably one of the areas where I would rely on my supervisor and the folks who have done it before to say, this is how we do it here. I was asked in my first interview, you know, how would I handle it? And I said, well, if on January 31st, you said, Melissa, there's a blockbuster of a storm coming, and I'm on a flight out to, you know, Zimbabwe tonight, and you're going to be on your own tomorrow, I would be honest and say, I don't feel prepared. But because there's been an emphasis in the job postings and the interviews and that, I said, you know, I would expect within the first, you know, as I'm getting my feet wet, the first maybe month, that we would meet regularly to talk about how on that February 1st storm, the city of Woburn would like me to approach it, how they've historically approached it, you know. Oh, we have some things that we don't like. Have you experienced this? Do you have any ideas? I'm pretty collaborative. I don't really like to engage in confrontation. I really feel respectful dialogue is the way you get a lot further with things. I've worked in contentious environments. I was asked, you know, how do I work in a male-dominated environment? Well, in one experience, one male took another male and picked him up and shoved him against the trailer, and they were screaming. And I don't, if that was men, that made me very uncomfortable. But I went to RPI in 1993, where my class was 20% female. So to me, I don't look at our profession as being male-dominated. I just say most of my colleagues are male. You know, because to me it's normal to be usually the minority in the room when it comes to gender. But I also feel like when anyone approaches the conversation with respect, I don't really think that matters, you know. Like I said, the folks who work for me, yes, while on paper I might be responsible for you, and at the end of the day it's my signature that, you know, is going to hold responsible. I can still learn from you. I had mentioned in my previous interview that I really am proud of the co-op program that I developed. I am extremely passionate about sharing my knowledge with the up-and-coming generation.
I'm going to go to the next question,
Yeah.
okay, because we only have so much time.
Yeah.
You answered a lot about, obviously, reading plans and blueprints. You obviously know how to do that from what you're talking about. On the knowledge of water treatment and sewer operations and facility maintenance.
So again, that would probably be something where I am familiar, where I am the engineering rep in my current job in the operations. But it's probably something that I am a little greener in. And one of the things in that 20% of the job description that attracted me, there's still more to learn, there's still more to know. So
In the facility maintenance or in the water treatment and sewer?
So water treatment and sewer, I'm definitely more familiar. Like I said, when I worked with the city of Somerville, I was in charge. I worked very closely with the sewer superintendent. I don't have a lot of building experience. I was on a project for 10 years. It was the out-of-town news kiosk in Harvard Square. That was really my first building project. I worked very closely with the architect. The building is also on the historic register. So again, I took it as an opportunity to really learn a lot, even about the bidding. I don't do a lot of, you know, building vertical construction. Most of my experience in procurement is horizontal. I learned a lot about building building construction, historic renovations, working with architects. You know, they do a lot of stuff lump sum, and lump sum makes me a little nervous when I do underground construction because there can be a lot of unknowns. So again, I used the architect and we spent a lot of time, I got on the scissor lift and I said, I'm just not really sure how the layering system on this roofing is working. And we got up on the scissor lift in the middle of Harvard Square and he spent the time. So I'm not afraid to admit what I don't know and ask for help and also seek the knowledge so that the next time it comes around, I'm not bothering my supervisor or wasting his time. And I've absorbed what I need to continue moving forward.
Assembling and maintaining productive teams is important. You just talked about that. Describe a situation that demonstrates your ability to build a cohesive, productive team, excuse me.
Sure. So the job that I referenced, the out-of-town news kiosk in Harvard Square, was literally a 10-year design and construction effort. It required coordination with the MWRA, the MBTA, municipal departments, the traffic department, the police department, community development, and then internally within DPW, we also had different departments that I had to work with. We were putting out big bellies. I had to work with sanitation. What's the spec for the big belly that you want? Lighting, I had to work with, licensing about what kind of lighting do you allow in this area and what are the regulations. And the hardest thing was not necessarily engaging with my colleagues in Cambridge or intermunicipal. The hardest part was getting the MBTA to cooperate and getting them to understand our timeline. And again, I felt that how I got everybody on the same page to work nicely together is we held weekly construction meetings. We had upfront agendas about what was going to be discussed, so everybody was prepared. We didn't waste anybody's time. It was a very large design team, so if we needed to have offshoots of smaller meetings, again, we weren't wasting anybody's time. Allowed everybody to speak about, what their priorities were, what their schedules were. And yeah, at times it got ugly and it got heated. But I think a lot of times when people got like that, it's because they were passionate about their work, their project, their position. I might get a little upset that, this is my project and I've been on it for 8 years and we're now, causing these unnecessary delays. Because I do take a lot of pride in my work and the pride in the work that I put out. I do kind of have high expectations of the people that work for me, but I also understand and recognize Cambridge has put us through a lot of trainings. And I do feel that the best way to manage folks is to get to know them. We all have life experiences that are different from one another and make us respond to different situations. And I feel that communication, if an employee does something that's kind of out of character, say, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? How can I step in and help? I have young engineers that work for me with young children, and they have those early morning soccer games, and the contractor wants to work. I was never too proud to say, and I was that parent once. My kids are grown and flown, but you know what? I'm not too proud as a supervising engineer to stand out there on a Saturday at 8 a.m. and support you so that you can also go and be the best parent you can be. So really, it's building that trust and that communication is really, I feel, the only way you're going to get productive teams together.
Tell us a time you had to deal with a difficult person in order to get the job done. What happened?
Sure. So we had a lot of deep paving projects to meet our EPA and Clean Water Act requirements. And, back in the day, we used to just make these plazas. And we had a deep paving project. We were taking a brick plaza with a veterans memorial. And the abutter was, and she was there a long time. People take ownership, and I get it that, they love their neighborhoods and their streets, and some people just don't like change. Well, she came out every day, guns ablazing, swearing, fingers raised high in the air, protest signs. I knew that I could not come back at her that way. It just was not going to be the proper way to address her. And so I won't use her name, I'll say Barbara. Barbara, what's going on? It's 8 o'clock in the morning, your blood's ready, how can I help you? And you try and diffuse the situation. And I actually, after 2 years, became her friend, came to find out while my older one was in the middle school, she was also a teacher there. I got to know her wife very well, and the wife did explain to me that there were some, mental things going on, and I respected that, and I was sure to choose my approach and my language that I felt would be best for her. And, I'd still come out a year later, and she would tell me to, F off and, use colorful language with me, but I never engaged. I would always try and diffuse her, and I would say, "What's going on, Barbara? What happened this morning? Was your coffee cold?" And try and de-escalate, and work with them. She wanted her driveway to be concrete. We had committed to the project that it would go back as brick. Brick was, highly valuable. People really like it, or they really hate it. Did it kill me to put the driveway in for brick, as concrete? No. Did I want it to be brick for aesthetics? Sure. But I was able to make that concession to make her happy. When I had new staff on site, I would go out and I would say, "Barbara, listen to me, we have a new, engineer, young, out of school. They don't know what I know in the history, so if you feel like you need to yell, here's my phone number, here's my desk, come yell at me, please don't yell at them, they're new." And again, I wasn't always like this, I'm 30 years into my career now, and I really learned. I do say when you have a forward-facing job like ours, had I known back then, I maybe would have got a minor in psychology to kind of learn how to work with people. But instead, it's been self-taught over the last 20 years. And as an engineer, I really feel like, yes, you're escalated and you're upset, but my job as an engineer, no matter what the problem is, what's the real problem? It could be they got their water bill, they got their tax bill, their neighbor.
That's right.
The neighbor left their trash bin out, right? It has nothing to do with me and the project that I'm doing. So I just try and get to the root of the problem and say, you know what, I actually can help you. You're really mad at me, but if you're really mad that your trash toter got smashed last week, let me get you, to the superintendent of sanitation, and he can get you a new toter out here. I try not to engage in high conflict. I don't find it to be productive.
So this is a little bit similar. Describe a situation where you made an important decision that you knew, regardless of what you decided, would be controversial.
That's a good question. I can't. This is like really simple, and if this is too simple, I will dig deeper for something else, but.
No, that's.
So when I first picked up the program, the co-op program, the co-ops were, our maids. They did everything that we didn't want to do. And I kind of did not feel like that's why these students were vesting maybe some of them are graduate students, 6 years into their career. Again, very big on community relations. Every time we touch a street, there is a printed orange community relations flyer that is distributed to each property, each social media outlet, and to each resident, each phase in construction. And basically, they were utilizing the students for that all summer long. And finally, I had to stand up in a meeting and go against the norm and say, yes, I would have no problem at my role for my generation if my supervisor said, "I need you to pick me up a coffee today on the way to work," right? There's a mutual respect. But if every day my job was just to kind of get the coffee and I was an engineer, I'd be like, oh, wow, this is kind of not what I signed up for. So I pushed really hard and I advocated that my peers, it's your project, it's my project. We need to help these students. So then instead of 7 hours of handing out orange flyers to 10,000, residents in the city, we can cut that down and then they can actually do some engineering work while they're here and also support us. And I did. I got some pushback and I got some nasty comments and, some people didn't like me for advocating for the students, but I'm pretty fair across the board. If you empty my recycling bin, or you're the city manager, or the mayor, or the president, I treat everybody the same. You're human, right? And I'm not sure that when you were in that role, you wanted to be spending 8 hours a day in 90-degree weather, handing out orange flyers, and then listening to residents yell at you because they know those flyers mean construction is coming. So I did really advocate hard. I had some difficult conversations, and in those 10 years that I really developed the program to have it a nice balance. But I do believe we all kind of have to do things that maybe we don't want to do. On that Saturday morning, did I really want to get up? I'm 50. I've already done my Saturday mornings, but I felt like it really helped to support my employee that day and say, you know what, I've been you and I know how important it is to be at that soccer game. I'm not too proud to cover for you on this day. And that's kind of how I would expect my supervisor, but again, like if awarded whatever role, very early on, I would want to have those conversations. How do you like to do things? How do you expect me to communicate?
Discuss your familiarity with and experience with the implementation of Chapter 90 funds.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, the biggest part of my job outside of the co-op program is overseeing the Chapter 90 program for the city of Cambridge. How we select our streets on our next contracts is that we take those streets off the 5-year plan. It's a really in-depth how we develop the 5-year plan. I won't go into that today because I know I go over it. I've gone into a lot today. But I was responsible for applying through the MassDOT portal for the project. So I had to fill out in the beginning all the paperwork. As they've evolved into an online portal, I had to do all of that, applying for the program. When we are awarded the funds, letting everybody in the city know, the auditor, DPW fiscal. DPW had its own fiscal department of about 6 folks. And I would work with the city engineer. Once the funds were awarded, I would let them know how much we were awarded. Because again, the Chapter 90 funds in Cambridge are not spent alone. They're actually pooled with other funding sources. I would then oversee, we would hire a consultant through the House Doctor contracts, and I would put out the RFP, the proposal. I would select the contractor, the design consultant actually, and I would work with them for about 2 years to come up with a design plan set. Again, that had that complete streets concept. I noticed that Woburn in July took their Chapter 90 funding and put out a contract for grind and overlay, and there was probably about maybe 20 streets. So again, our scope and our contracts were very different. So the design process took about 2 years. Myself and the traffic calming program manager and CDD, we would oversee that design process. We would lead the design. In-house, we don't really have the ability to do the CAD and the fine tuning. So the consultants, we would meet with them periodically. They'd bring the plans back to us. Parallel to that, I would be holding those 3 community meetings as the project went along with the community relations managers. They were actually held on the street where the construction was going to happen. This is where we're proposing a bump out. Yes, I understand that you park up into the corner, but there's actually an ordinance that for safety, when we put in the raised crosswalk, we're not taking away legal parking. Because even though you're allowed and the police don't it's not really a legal parking spot. And when you could meet on site and talk through all of that, you really get buy-in. And so then we would put the project out to bid. I would attend the bid opening. I would prepare all the big documents with purchasing. I would vet the bids with my co-ops or my students. We would, go through all the bids to make sure that it was a balanced bid, to make sure that their addition, their math was correct. So I would have my students or my engineers regenerate almost their bid sheet in Excel. I would then take the 3 lowest bidders and make my recommendation to purchasing about who, the lowest bidder and responsible bidder, and here's why. And I would justify it, and if the city manager approved that contract, I would then have, I held all the pre-bid meetings, I held all the pre-construction meetings. I managed all the technical community relations for my projects. So the design contracts for Chapter 90 that I've overseen were about $2 to $4 million, and then the construction contracts were probably somewhere between $8 and $16 million. I've done separated bike lanes, and so all the while I had to learn what is eligible. They don't pay for water, they don't pay for sewer. The items that I request and the cost at which I request them are based on the engineer's estimate. They're not based on the actual contractor's bid price, which I actually use to request my reimbursements from the state. So I learned how to work with them on that difference. I've learned where you can be flexible, where you can't be flexible. The finance director asked that I submit reimbursement requests in the end of June and then the end of December. So that's how we handled it there. Our requests would be anywhere from 1 to 3 million, so that's why we would do them, each request. So we would do them twice a year. I would prepare all the paperwork. I would submit them to the state aid engineer. Needless to say, it's massed out paperwork. It is sometimes a little bit confusing. So, sometimes I put a wrong figure, but I worked very closely with our state aid engineer if there were any problems like that. And then once,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah. You talked briefly, I just had a couple more questions, but you kind of answered it already about your education briefly at the beginning. You've already talked about juggling multiple responsibilities. I think you've already talked about, but if not, briefly explain your experience with environmental permitting. I believe you did touch on that already, but just briefly.
so all of the environmental permitting is part of my street and roadway contracts, which is kind of like a UAN, the utility related. Again, so the, who is now the city engineer, but when he was in the director's role, he kind of had the real in-depth knowledge. So when it was identified on my project through the consultant, through, the borings that were done, or maybe just historical research, there used to be a gas station here. I would work with the consultant in preparing all the applications. I would then meet with my counterpart to review, because they had much more in-depth knowledge, to make sure that everything was accurate, that I was covering everything that needed to be covered, based on the regulations. So again, it's something that I'm familiar, I have exposure to, but it would be something, how do we do it here? Who do I go to? And if it's something that became more of an everyday, because again, there was one person that kind of held that responsibility. But it is something I'm familiar with.
Okay, and then one last question, just to wrap things up. Is there anything else that you feel is important for us to know about you, or that you would like to elaborate on or clarify?
So I think I've done a lot of talking. I went well over in my first interview. I've done a lot of talking here today. I feel like I've covered everything, but if anything is unclear, or are there any questions or anything you want to elaborate on, I'm happy to take those.
No, let me just see if there's any questions or from the committee. Yes, Councilor Toro.
Thank you. Melissa, where do you live right now?
I live in Medford.
Okay. So commuting to and from Woburn won't be an issue, obviously, living in Medford.
No, I actually noticed today, so even though Cambridge is, my office is 3 miles from my house, with traffic and road diets and bike lanes, it could take 45 minutes to go 3 miles. So it was actually quicker to come here today than it was to get to work every day. I do value our 7 to 3:30. Can kind of scoot out a little bit ahead of the traffic. I'm not sure what this, think that's what the schedule is here, but yeah, no, it's not a problem.
We'll follow up on that question. So, yes, the job description says 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30, on call 24/7 for emergency response. I think Jay would have discussed this with you, but if not, definitely it should be discussed. It's not a 40-hour-a-week job. It's not going to be 7 to 3:30. It seems like what you're used to is that 7 to 3. So,
Oh.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry if I made, no, so all our community meetings are held after hours.
Yeah.
All of our, the Cambridge Commission for Persons with Disabilities, the Pedestrian Committee, and a lot of our community engagement was outside the 7 to 3:30. Definitely, I feel like at this level, we don't shut off, and I think COVID kind of actually made it even worse, right? Because now our computers are home, our cell phones are home. We have very active constituents, and I think for myself, we talked about this, my normal way of the world, you would walk into my office, or you might walk into my dining room, a little chaotic, but I'm always on. I think, like I said, the reason I'm here today is because there's still more to learn. I'm not done learning. Jay reminded me, I applied to work for him many, many years ago. And I was glad that he brought it up, because I said at that time, my children were younger, my knowledge was greener, and I was not able to give you the support you needed in the role that you were hiring for. Because yes, 14 years ago, when my kids were, newborns and 8, it was a lot harder for me to scoot out of the house at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. Now they don't even talk to me. They're happy when I leave, And so that's why this time around, I said I can now support that piece of the role. When I knew back then, I just couldn't.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Viola.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Absolutely phenomenal,
Demand pro.
phenomenal resume. And you backed it up with all of your experience, and I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I highly regard it too as well. What about field experience? Out in the field, boots on the ground, doing site visits, this and that. I know you said at one point you were on a scissor lift and you checked out the depth of construction of a roof project that you were involved in. This job there's a SUV provided, it's loaded with, all kinds of, measuring devices and all kinds of transits and this and that. Tell me about your field experience, out on the field, boots on the ground, looking at projects, looking at possible projects, problems, things that we might need ironed out, problems that just might arise, whatever that might be, whether a pipe break, a sewer line issue. Tell me, expand upon that, if you could.
Absolutely. So again, one of the reasons what draws me to municipal and not consulting is I'm a visual learner. I am absolutely a visual learner. I actually wore sneakers today because I wasn't sure where Jay may take me, because he actually put 2 plans in front of me. The first time ever in my engineering career in an interview, I was asked to look at plans and talk through the plan set. And again, I'm a visual learner. So I said, well, maybe he's going to take me to a site today. And I bet, so I wore rubber bottom, canvas shoes in preparation that there may be another activity that I had to do as part of this interview. You might notice I'm a little bit of high energy. I don't do well sitting in a chair. I don't. If I don't understand, Jay put the plans in front of me and he said, what's the first thing that you would ask me? I'd say, what problem are we solving? And can you bring me there so I can see it? I prefer to be in the field. I believe the folks that have chosen that path, whether they be a contractor or whatever, they know just as much as I do as an engineer, because they've done it and they've seen it. So I may have looked at it and learned it in a book or a classroom. But if I don't understand something, I'm going out there and I might say, Mr. or Mrs. Contractor, I'm a little confused, show me. What's the problem I'm trying to solve? I also believe in being on site to support those engineers that work for me. Sometimes you throw them out into the advent of the cell phone now. Like my career, I had a pager when I first started. These kids now, they're in like this. And I have to go out. Are you safe? Do you know how to operate around an excavator? Do you have any questions? Here's a prime example. I went out to visit one of my projects, and the co-op said to me, I'm so glad you put me on this project. I looked at her and I said, why? And it was a simple, we were reed setting curb. It wasn't anything crazy, right? And she said, well, I did not know that you actually buried curb and you encased it in concrete. I thought you just paved the road and then you glued the curb on. And that really was eye-opening to me, why it is so important to get out there and see things. It doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 20, 30 years. There's still stuff I don't know. There is still stuff I need to see. And I'm also a team player and collaborative. So I want the folks that are maybe doing work for me out there. Hey, I'm here. I'm next to you. I'm here to help. Well, you know what? I'm confused reviewing this pay rec, why this quantity might be this. Can we please walk through what happened? I don't really sit at my desk a lot, but if that's something that my supervisor wants, sure, I'll work on it, but I am a visual learner. I do believe in collaboration, and I did wear my sneakers just in case you guys were going to take me out to do something today.
Excellent, thank
So,
President Dillon.
Thank you. Councilor DeManville somewhat touched on it, but I'll come at it just more directly. Up to this point in your career, would you consider yourself more of an office person who was in the office coordinating, making sure everyone's doing what they're doing out in the field, or actually out in the field getting right into the you know, the actual job and seeing how things are going and running the jobs in the field?
I prefer to be in the field. I do. So I try and get myself out as much as I can. Again, there's always something to learn. You know, I filled out the Chapter 90 paperwork 800 times. I'm not going to learn anything filling that out. That might be something I do at 7 o'clock at night while I'm sitting with my dog, right? Like something I can do. But when I worked for the city of Gloucester, we exposed the cistern. The way that they used to fight fires. Underneath the road was this, I had never in my life seen one of those, right? And I had to get myself out there and see how it was constructed. You know, how did this function back in the day?
It's one of those at Maine and Salem.
So yeah, I would prefer to be outside.
Okay,
My job now does require me to be inside a lot as well.
throughout your career up to this point, where would you say most of your time has been spent? In the field or in the office?
I would have to say my jobs would probably be considered traditionally office jobs. But because I don't learn, operate, and function that way, I have made it work where I can get my office job done, but I do value and go out being in the field. You have to be there, you have to see it. You know, there are some times where maybe I just can't spend as much time in the field. But I do like being out there.
Thank you.
I do.
appreciate it. I'm good, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Viola.
What do you feel is your biggest weakness and how do you overcome it?
So I'd say my biggest weakness is, we talked about this in my first interview, the natural state of my world is chaos. So you will come into my office, I will know where everything is. It doesn't affect my productivity, but it overwhelms other people to see the mess. So if I'm going on vacation, I try and clean up. If I'm welcoming somebody into my office to try and clean up. But it also is kind of how my brain works. And that's not how everybody's brain works. So my supervisors, my last two supervisors that I had in Cambridge, I asked them, I said, what would be helpful for me is if I can meet with you once a week for an hour, because their time is also extremely limited. And it forced me to create an agenda every week, a running agenda that would lead up to that meeting. And I would say, I did this week on the project. This is where the project stands. This is the feedback I need from my supervisor. And so it's really forced me to be more organized. But because it's my nature, sometimes I tend to fall back into that little chaotic. And honestly, being a little more chaotic and busy goes better in the field than it does in the office. You know, I can move around and I can see what's going on and talk to different folks and check out different things, where I can get a little bit antsy at the desk.
Yes, Councilor Papalato.
You know, going through your resume and your cover letter, you're extremely well educated. You'd be an asset to any department, but a lot of what you talked about today is engineering. It almost feels like you belong in an engineering department or a chief engineer for a town versus a DPW position, because this is a very different than what you do. You're operating at a high level with what you're doing, and you have a large staff of people that you can call on to do all these things. You're gonna look in the mirror and realize, I gotta go do that. So, are you clear on what this job is? Because it's very
Absolutely.
different than what you're doing.
Yes, so we talked about this in my first interview. It's interesting the way different communities lay out engineering and DPW. So when I worked for Gloucester, when I worked for Melrose, you're right, they were purely engineering departments in City Hall. You didn't touch operations, you didn't touch DPW, you definitely didn't touch snow removal, right? Then when I went to work for the city of Somerville and then Cambridge, we're much more integrated. Our work much more overlaps. So yes, my brain very much works like an engineer. I'm methodical. I like to get to the root of the problem. A lot of the job description here talked about what you talked about, Chapter 90, street reconstruction. I think the only difference is that your scopes are different.
Because a lot of what you've been doing would be stuff that Jay would do, or our city engineer would do, or even beyond. I mean, it'd get, all
Right.
throughout different departments. So that's not what this is.
Right, and so that 20% that I really am unfamiliar with, right, like my job, my current role, I kind of like maxed out. I'm not learning right? Like I can probably do that job in my sleep. While I love it and I appreciate it, it's great. And I am looking for something that's a little more challenging now, something that I'm not nearly as familiar with, while I can still bring the exposure and the knowledge. I also think like in the communities where I've worked, our scopes and our projects are so large,
Right.
that I was so lucky and blessed to get to touch on all of these things, but now I'm ready to do some stuff that I'm not quite so familiar with.
And you'd be an attribute to whatever department or whatever city you're at because of all this experience.
And I appreciate that, and I also don't want to let anyone think that, I think I definitely am here to learn the things that I don't know. And I feel like I can be a support, and the experience that I have can definitely support Jay and his DPW team, but there is about that 20% where I'm here to learn. I want to know how you guys do things. I'll be honest with you. You asked about going out in the field. The city engineer role in a lot of communities is office-based. It's a lot of paper pushing. The role in Cambridge does a lot of much more politics than it does engineering or operations. And I know that that's not where I don't want my career. I don't want to be an office paper pusher. I don't. Maybe when I'm 65 and I can't move along the way I do now, and
Be careful. be
right?
careful.
Like, I'm almost there. Listen, I'm almost there. But I still feel like I have a few good years in me to really give and learn.
Okay, you're in.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
But
you.
I'm glad you asked that because I didn't want any like misconceptions of like, what is she,
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Oh, I think we are all set.
Great.
Thank you so much,
Well,
Melissa.
thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for the questions.
Yes, and
And if
enjoy your
anything else
night.
comes up, please just reach out.
We will, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 2-minute break.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you again. Thank you.
For our interviews. Oh, wait, we just lost somebody. Oh, no, that's okay. I'm going to, okay, I'm going to keep going. Michael Page. Michael Page is our next person. Hi, Michael, welcome.
How you doing? Nice to
Very
meet you
well,
all.
thank you. I'm Councilor Campbell, and I'm the chairman of personnel. And then once again, if everybody could go around and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bill Papalato, and I'm council for Ward 2.
Hi, Mike. Lou DeMambro, City Council, Ward 6.
Joe Demers, City Councilor for Ward 4.
Jeff Dillon, President of Woburn City Council, Ward 3 City Council.
Bob Ferrillo, Councilor at Large.
Rob Toro, Council at Large.
Chuck Viola, Ward 7, Council.
Okay, so welcome. So we have a set of questions that we're going to ask each of the candidates. At the end, any of the councilors can ask you to elaborate on any questions. What I told the last candidate, this is for us, this is the first time, well, most of us, that we're meeting you. So please, really fill your answers and let us know what you know and how you really would handle things that would happen in the field and things like that. So let's start out with, please tell us about your experience in a DPW and public environment. Why are you interested in the deputy superintendent position of the Woburn DPW?
My experience with the public environment is I deal with a lot of permitting process. So I do a lot of work with planning board, conservation commission, city council, ZBA. I do work with engineers quite a bit to establish like existing utilities and all that stuff. I do work with the public officials quite a bit, the planners. So part of my work is I usually take projects from the start to the beginning. So I usually get an existing conditions plan. So usually I do a lot of research at City Hall. I used to reach out to Greg all the time to get some water and sewer service ties or sewer plans for the city. Then establish where utilities are on the street or utilities going into the existing home if there is an existing home on site. And then once we get to that process, the design process, then we go with the permitting process. Depending which department we're going with, I usually deal with the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, ZBA. I've done with the state work, with NEPA filings, the stormwater pollution plan filings, with the EPA and stuff. So that's my work with that. And I also work with the DPW director sometimes with sewer service plans or water plans or whatnot for our clients to build permits. And then I'm interested in this job because, well, I'm not a current resident, but I lived in Woburn for 26 years. I graduated from Woburn High School in 1998. My parents still live here. My grandfather was in the fire department. I have a lot of relatives that live here, and I still have a lot of friends that work around town. But I've always wanted to get into the public sector. I just haven't never pulled the trigger. And this job came along. I thought it'd be great to get back into Woburn and help out and contribute to the community.
Please tell us about your experience in the operation, maintenance, and construction and repair of, we have a series of different items. Underground utility, construction of new roads and sidewalks, snow operations.
For construction of roadways, and we've done quite a bit of subdivisions. I've done a 30-lot subdivision in Beverly, 4-lot subdivision in Wenham, and so we've done a lot of road design, utility design, sidewalks, and meeting local regulations. There's wetlands nearby. We usually, do wetland filing, and usually meeting those subdivision regulations and ordinances. And then during construction, we usually are on site with the stakeout work, writing elevations. We do inspections of the roadway or the installed structures and piping, make sure they're installed at appropriate depths or appropriate material are all according to plans.
Snow operations, did you just touch on that?
I haven't, other than my own residence, my parents' residence, and I do call out snow storage and stuff on plans, but I've never participated in snow plowing or any of that.
Reading plans and blueprints?
Yes, that's a daily, so designing them and all that stuff, so I do read plans daily, architectural drawings, civil drawings, landscape drawings, know how to read and draw and interpret them all. Okay.
Knowledge of water treatment and sewer operations.
Sewer operations, I have more knowledge of. I design septic systems all the time up in the North Shore. I think I designed 10 of them this year so far. I am a soil evaluator, so I evaluate the soils with the Board of Health. Water systems, I'm typically the design phase of it, not usually the operation phase of the water system, but you're designing water mains or services to residents.
Facility maintenance.
Facility maintenance, don't really perform so many facility maintenance, but I do a lot of site inspections, and I am a certified stormwater pollution prevention inspector. So that means that we file that with this EPA, and then I'm certified to go around and make sure that erosion controls and sediments on site are contained on site, and the appropriate erosion controls are installed and maintained throughout the duration of the project. But maintaining a facility, maintaining a building, is that what you're referring to?
I think so,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, so I haven't done much maintenance to buildings yet.
Yeah. Assembling and maintaining productive teams is important. Describe a situation that demonstrates your ability to build a cohesive, productive team.
A lot of projects we deal with architects, landscape architects. We deal with the contractors quite a bit. So usually, if you're a project manager, you usually end up working quite a bit with the architects, organizing plans, organizing with the plumber and electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, make sure our plans all drive with them, where the utility rooms are. And then also landscaping, make sure our plans jive with the landscaping plan. So we're sort of pulling all that stuff together from those different professionals and making a cohesive drawing to present to appropriate planning board, conservation commission, at that CBA. But
Tell us a time you had to deal with a difficult person in order to get the job done. What happened?
I haven't really dealt with too many difficult during my job process. I mean, it's only 4 people in my company. I dealt with some difficult contractors, but nothing really crazy. I mean,
Well, then,
But-
contractors.
I think there's situations that we went through. We went in front of the CBA, and we didn't get the votes that we needed for the relief, and I was pretty angry afterwards. And he was yelling, screaming, and everything. And I calmed him down, worked that throughout, and explained that the other options that we could do, move forward to it. And the next day we spoke together, and we showed him the plans that that afternoon we showed him different avenues we could do to get what he still wanted without as much relief that he should request. Other than that, I did run the youth soccer program in Tewksbury for 10 years, and I've dealt with several angry parents and coaches over the years, and so it's been 10 years of dealing with complaints and explaining to them how we made our decisions, and I usually have facts backing my decisions, which helped. But I've dealt with many angry parents over the years.
Describe a situation where you made an important decision that you knew, regardless of what you decided, would be controversial.
Important decision I knew that was going to be controversial. We have this project in Linfield we were working with, and we have an abutter who was not in favor of the project. He was going to be granted an easement at the portion of the remain on the back of the property to fill like a little buffer. And he went through and he cut those trees down. And during this whole process, there was a really difficult process to go through which trees to cut down and which not to. He went in there and just cut them all. We got the videotape of them and everything. And the contractor developer I was working with wanted to just sort of sit on it until the end of the project and have it come to light then. And I approached him and I said we should sort of address it now instead of it comes an issue later on. And I still actually didn't follow my advice, but we wanted to cut it off right away. And but I think something that comes to mind are really controversial.
Discuss your familiarity and experience with the implementation of Chapter 90 funds.
I don't have much experience with Chapter 90 funds, but I do know what they are. I know that it's a funding from the state to municipalities for capital improvements for roadways and sidewalks, bridges. And I do know that it's based on, I think, the local road mileage, population, and economy. Employment. No, that's based on, that's how they determine which state, each city gets their funding.
Tell us about your education. Do you have a degree? And if so, explain.
I attended University of Massachusetts Lowell. I studied civil engineering. I played soccer there, and I did indoor and outdoor track for 4 years. I graduated with my engineering degree. I passed the EIT test, engineering and training test, upon graduation. And that's my education at this point. And then once I graduated, 2 weeks later, I started at Griffin Engineering, where I'm still at today. Worked there for 22 years.
Do you have experience with environmental permitting? If so, describe which area in particular.
Yeah, so we deal with Conservation Commission quite a bit up in the North Shore. We do a lot of piers and we do a lot of notice of intents, RDAs, NRADs. And we do file complete applications with them. We also deal with DEP quite often, address their comments on certain projects that they have requirements for. And then we also, if it is denied by Conservation Commission, we have submitted superseding order conditions with, at the state level to go around the city bylaws. But, and I also have worked with, submitted stormwater pollution plans quite often, as I mentioned before, for certain projects over an acre of land to make sure that the project is containing everything on site. Erosion's not going off site, and local wetlands aren't affected by the construction.
Tell us how you juggle multiple responsibilities while dealing with the unexpected needs that arise in your day.
Do that quite often now. Right now, we're like a small companies, 4 of us, and we're pretty busy. Most of us have 8 to 10 jobs working on
At a time?
At a time. Yeah, so I'm working on a permitting process now, and then I have 2 projects that are under construction, and conceptual drawings at the same time. And sometimes we have no admin secretary, so we're always answering phones, which are answering questions for clients or residents, opponents of the project and whatnot, or working with the city if they're calling, have questions. But if I'm working on a report in the office for a notice of intent, and someone calls and we need stakeout work, we usually that's going, if it's holding up construction, usually we get out there as soon as we can to get that work done. But if the permanent notice of intent is due the next day, I need to get done, and if I can push that construction stakeout off, then I would do that too. So I prioritize the need of getting and what's still necessary to get things done. But we juggle a lot now daily. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel is important for us to know about you or that you would like to elaborate on or clarify?
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I lived in Woburn for 26 years. I graduated in 1998. I went to ULO. Once I graduated from ULO, within a 2-week span, I graduated, had my first daughter, and then started Griffin Engineering all in like 2 weeks. And then I did Griffin Engineering for 22 years and learned a lot under Bob Griffin. He's been a great mentor. We do all aspects of construction and civil engineering, from we do 30 lot subdivisions to single family developments to commercial developments to, I have a 75 unit building going up in Salem. So we do quite a bit of, and that requires a lot of permitting to the state and the local level. Do a lot of construction inspections throughout the project. And meanwhile, most of the time it's when I'm doing performing my stakeout work, I do the inspection at the same time, because usually I can see if there's an error when I'm doing my stakeout, if something's in the wrong position, if something's on the wrong elevation, or if I see something that's not correct, I can address it at that time with the contractor. But we do a lot of inspections. Most of the projects we perform inspections during the process. And then we do as-built surveys and as-built inspections to make sure everything is built according to plans and we note any deviations. And most of the time, we already know the deviations of the process because when we're during construction, we do help out to address any issues that come up during the process. So, if I've got a plan from the city that says the water line goes this way, but it actually goes this way, and they were digging for the building footprint and hit the water line, and then we'll come up with a solution to reroute the water line that originally had it, or come. But we do provide solutions during construction too. There's always something that comes up.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the rest of the council for questions. Yes, Councilor DeMambro.
So do you have any experience when it comes to, again, water, sewer, curbing, road layouts? You did mention that you can take and pull out the transit and you can see grades and pitch and all that stuff. It sounds like you're pretty fluent with that. Do you have experience with, like I said, the water and the sewer? Things that, may come up in the city, a cave-in, an issue in the street, a layout, intersections that we're trying currently to rebuild and try to make better. You have the experience so that you can go out there, you can take a look at it, see what's wrong, what might be off, so on and so forth, and you can communicate with the contractors if they're out there in the field.
Yes.
More like boots on the ground type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do the construction, the design phase of all that, so I know what it should look like, and, we're going through the design. I mean, I provide details for all those water, trench details, sewer details. I do provide curbing details, pavement details, but we do go out there and do full inspections, to look at that the curbing reveal, if the curbing is installed right, there, concrete going around it, the binder course and the two, final courses, they put their appropriate, slope on the roadway, the 2% pitch on each direction. We don't do traffic studies. I haven't done any traffic studies, but I've done my own traffic counts at intersections for projects to figure out where the heavy traffic's going and if that project's going to have an impact on that traffic. I have laid out intersections, and I have witnessed, or during construction, I have been on site for section installation. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Councilor Toro?
Michael, couple questions.
Yeah.
What are your hours at Griffin Engineering Group now?
Right now, our hours typically are 8:30 to 5. But typically, I usually stay until 5:36 because we're pretty busy, and sometimes I get there early. So I'm usually working, between 8 and 6 each day. And I typically don't take a lunch. I eat my desk if need be, but I do put the time in to get the projects done that I need to get finished and completed. The clients or applicants are hoping, they have a deadline themselves, and we got to hit that deadline.
So the job posting says 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30, when on call 24/7. I think this was probably discussed with you in maybe your first interview, I would assume. But the work requirement is going to be much more than that. The hours are going to be longer. Being on call, there's expectations that you're going to work more than your traditional day, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. Both my daughters are in college. One's a fifth year down at UNC, and the other one's in Maryland. So we have, so it's just my wife and I at the house. So, and I do expect to work longer hours here. My parents live in town, so it's actually nicer to be able to go visit them if need be. But yeah, 24/7, I'll be available. Yeah.
And just kind of following your resume a little bit, you Lowell, 98 to 2003, and then Griffin Engineering Group from then, and that's been your only job, right?
Yeah, I worked for the town of Needham during college.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
yep, okay.
Yeah.
Small group, 4 people,
Yeah.
right? It seems like you have your own hand in your own projects, 8, 9, 10 projects at a
Yeah.
time. But part of this job requires you, as a deputy, to supervise.
Mm-hmm.
What is your experience in supervising others, and supervising people in projects within the civil? So me personally, it seems like you've discussed a little bit maybe supervision of projects that you're involved in.
Right.
But I'm more interested in your experience in supervising people.
Yeah, we don't have much experience in supervising individuals during projects. Most of the time, it's taken over by the developer or the contractor at that point. My experience of supervision really comes back to running the youth league. It's supervising, 24 youth coaches and assistant coaches, and then supervising the teams and making sure the practices and all that stuff. But that's my sort of my supervision experience. But we just don't do that at Griffin Engineering. We don't supervise individuals. So.
And last question is, one of the functions in the job description is the ability to work with federal and state officials and agencies in the absence of the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when Jay's not around, and even when Jay's around, he might delegate tasks you to have conversations with, different state agencies and federal agencies.
Yep.
Do you interact with any of those types of agencies now as part of your role with Griffin Engineering Group?
Yes, so I do interact with the Division of Marine Fisheries quite a bit. We've done a few Army Corps stuff. Um, Work with DEP quite a bit on a number of Chapter 91s, MIPA. We work, do file, I've done a few MIPA filings individually, which works with the Secretary of State to make sure, I mean, I work with a team of architects and because it requires a lot more information, it's just civil engineering to provide. But I do work with those federal and state departments as well, yeah.
Thank you. I'm all set. Appreciate it.
President Dillon.
Thank you. Two quick questions. Your current residents commute to here, to Woburn now, approximately how long?
So I live in Tewksbury right now, and the commute is approximately 25 to 30 minutes.
Thank you. Second question. Up until today, your career, would you say you work more in an office environment, getting projects ready to go out, and overseeing them from the office, or would you say you're more in the field, hands-on?
I have to give a number. I'm probably in the office a little bit more, but it's probably like a 60-40, or it's pretty close because we are outside quite a bit. It's mostly in aspects of surveying and doing some inspections, but we are in this office writing reports, designing drawings, and
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Viola.
Thank you. What is your biggest weakness and how do you overcome it?
biggest weakness is probably that I'm pretty passive. Not very outgoing, but I will be assertive if I need to. If I know where the right direction to go, I will be assertive if need be necessary. But I am pretty passive. I'm not out there to look for confrontation or anything of that. I'm not. But it's probably, it's a weakness, but I think it helps with my personality. I'm open-minded, patient, but.
Thank you.
Councilor Pappalardo.
You got an excellent resume. The 22 years or so that you've been at Griffin, have any of those jobs been within municipalities?
Yeah, so we actually.
Other than zoning board, planning board, that kind of stuff, but working for municipalities?
Yeah, we've done a few projects. So for the town of Stoneham, he actually works with the Conservation Commission for peer review. So we used to review their plans for them and several different projects. Mark, we just reviewed a large septic system for them, and then we also have done projects in Woburn. We performed work at the DPW yard. We designed that process, and then I also overlooked the cleaning of the drain line in Main Street. We started down by the church, the name of the road is, and then made our way down through the center to clean up the drain line.
Okay. Because it feels like you've got 100% of your resume as engineering. That's not what this is. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to oversee all of the work, but this is boots on the ground, supervising large groups of people doing lots of different projects at the same time. Are you comfortable in that environment?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you
Thank you for
so
your
much.
time.
Thank you. Mike. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you
a
all.
good night.
Well, you got Anthony?
Oh, no, we'll bring them, but thank you. That's my favorite. But, no, that one is. All the stuff.
Oh, you paid.
You did. The next person that we have to be interviewed, my paper, is Anthony Parziali. Hi, Anthony, welcome. Have a seat right here.
How's it going, everybody?
Good evening.
I didn't realize that I had enough time to go home and change. I was working until about 5:45, so I came right over. I apologize for my dress.
No, you're fine, no problem. I'm Councilor Campbell, and I'm the Chairman of Personnel, and I'm going to have everyone else introduce themselves.
Bill Papalato, Council of Ward 2.
Lou DeMambro, Council for Ward 6.
You're the mayor's council of Ward 4.
Jeff Dillon, President of Woburn City Council, Council of Ward 3 as well.
Bob Perillo, Alderman at Large, Counselor at Large.
Rob Toro, Council at Large.
Chuck Viola, Ward 7 Council.
Feel bad because I met everybody already except for you.
Yeah,
'Cause I've
welcome.
reached out to everybody. so
Yeah,
I
welcome.
try and- Nice to meet you.
Yeah, same here. So I'm going to ask you the same questions that we asked the other candidates. And then at the end, I'll open it up to the other counselors if they want to ask follow-up questions or anything else, okay? And so this is, like, you sound, obviously, a lot of people do know you, but answer the questions completely as if we really don't know, that we don't know your skills, so that we can hear everything and really get to know you, okay? Please tell us about your experience in a DPW and public environment. Why are you interested in the deputy superintendent position for the Woburn DPW?
If you don't mind, I would like to start and thank the other 3 guys that were in-house guys that put in for this job and didn't get put in front of you guys like I did today. Very important to value being promoted in-house. The guys in-house know the city, the people, and the infrastructure better than anybody else. So I want to recognize the 3 guys that didn't get this opportunity. So I'm not going to name them because I don't know if you're allowed to do that in these meetings, but they're hardworking guys and they could just as easily be sitting here. Now, as for myself, I want to help people. The first thing I said to Peter Rand when I came on to the department about 2 years ago, he said, "Why do you want to work here?" And I go, "I want to help the residents of the city of Woburn. I grew up here until I was about 35 years old. And at this point in my life, I want to start giving back and help out the residents." My experience for the past 2 years has been working with the highway foreman. I've been on that crew for, I guess, 2 years. I've always been in a leadership role in my life since a young age. When I was pop on a football, I was captain of the football team. In high school, I was the captain of the wrestling team, president of the Peer Mediators Club, president of the business club. Actually, at one point in high school, my senior year, I was captain of the wrestling team, host of the prestigious mother-daughter banquet, lead actor in the drama club play. I was a crew trainer at McDonald's. I had just received an award for community service. So from there, I go to college. In college, I wrote for the school newspaper, which I got an award for an article I wrote on Route 3 construction. While I was going to school there, I worked for National Foundations, which is, I put basically Donnie McLaughlin and Andy Santos. But the point of that is I did foundations, went to school, and I worked at a radio station at WRKO at the same time. And I'm about 18 years old, held over a 3.0 average while I was in school, was president of my fraternity. At a very young age, I got put in a leadership role at the radio station. They hired me to be the boss of the show. So morning shows have an executive producer. I got that when I was 20 years old, as well as an on-air personality. I did that job for about 15 years. While working there, hosted hundreds of charity events, was a part of, I can easily say that, I can actually give you documentation because of the Greg Hill Foundation that we helped raise over $30 million over that time. I was the lead on the Walk for Change, which is a charity event where I walked from Worcester to Boston. I did that for 10 different Thanksgivings. We raised over $1 million for the Greater Boston Food Bank. While I was working at the radio station, my father passed away. I got an $8,000 inheritance. I took that money, I started a trash company, and I turned that trash company into a business that would generate $1 million in revenue consistently for 6-7 years up until COVID. Had 20 guys working for me. While I was doing that, I started two real estate investment companies with We Buy Ugly Houses, which is home investors. So I had a franchise here in Boston and I had a franchise in Manchester. While doing that, you could have any number of people working for you because I could have 4 or 5 houses going at once. One's got a septic tank going, one's being demolished. One's just a plot of land that I'm building. And at the same time, running a trash company, at the same time being a boss of a radio show. And then I'd say COVID hit, which didn't do well for my trash business. A lot of guys wanted to take the money and just kind of stay home. So I started winding that down. My home investors business, I wanted to get out of the partnership with my friend. So I got out and decided that I wanted to, this is when I called Jay and I said, he asked me, why do you want to work here? And I gave him 2 reasons. I want to help people. And then I said, I want to be the deputy superintendent. And I swear that's what I said. And then when he just actually interviewed me for deputy superintendent, he was like, what are your intentions? And I go, to take your job in 5 years. So,
So please tell us about your experience in the operation, maintenance, construction, and repair of, and I'm going to put a few things together, okay? Underground utility, construction of new roads and sidewalks, and snow operations.
So we'll start with snow. I've been plowing for a long time. I used to have 3 trucks on the city of Woburn. Luckily enough, I have the same route now that I did when I had my trucks. I've plowed for the state, for DCR over by the Stoniums, and I plowed for the state up on Lexington Street, where you just go from Lexington all the way, not to the center, but to the end of the state road. So I did that for years. I've plowed 1 winter for the highway foreman, where I have a sander. I do building maintenance right now for the Archdiocese, and I'm actually in the process of securing contractors to take care of the parking lots, the sidewalks, and all that stuff that's coming up. I manage 2 churches, so it's St. Thomas, St. John's. St. Thomas is in Nahant. I manage St. John's and Swampscott. I have both rectories, a school, and an office building. And I'm currently setting up snow contractors to take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all right, so underground stuff.
Yeah, and then new roads. And
I've done, so before I worked here, I would subcontract any of that work, if that makes sense. So let's say if I'm putting in a septic tank and we need sewer lines, or let's say I have to go in front of conservation because I have to put in some kind of a drainage system to have net zero on the property that I bought, hire an engineer does the planning and all that. You just oversee the subcontractors that you hire to make sure that gets done. I've done that, I don't know, at least 32 times with the houses that I've had. As far as working here, on the highway foreman's crew, I do storm drains and I do sewer lines, where I don't want to lie, I'm pretty green at it, but I have a good understanding of it. I'm learning fastly, and been doing that for about 2 years.
Okay. What's your experience with reading plans and blueprints?
As far as reading plans and blueprints, outside, because I want to be honest, outside of things that would go with home design, I don't really have a lot of experience with. So let's say if we're doing a storm drain for one of the streets here, or if we're doing a sewer pipe here, I don't really get to see the plans. Our boss will tell us what we're doing and we just do it. But like I said, I believe I put in, I want to say it's 31 septic tanks in the houses that we did, and that comes with storage, drainage, if you have to put on that. And I have an okay understanding of that, but outside of building a house or a building, that's the only experience. But I've done that for about 7 years with my real estate investment company. So.
Knowledge of water treatment and sewer operations?
I really don't have a strong background in water treatment. I'm willing to learn. That's one of the things about me. If I don't know about it, like for example, Jay had asked me a question about what an 8M permit was. I didn't know. So I left the meeting. I have it on my phone. I went and I made a 1-sheet guide about everything that's involved in pulling that kind of a permit, what it means, what you need to do to have it done. So the way I look at things is I might not know it. Let's example, I say today I can do 10 push-ups, well, tomorrow I can do 11, and the next day I can do 12. I'm always bettering myself. So I may not have a great background in water treatment right now, but I'll get it if that's what I need to do. As far as sewers come, I think I'm pretty good at it. I mean, for 2 years I've been working on a crew where we put in structures all the time. I was just on a crew, we relayed, I don't know, at least 80, maybe 100 feet of pipe. So I think I have a pretty good idea of it.
Facility maintenance.
I've been doing that for a long time. So before I took the job with the Archdiocese, I was working for doing an office building in Swampscott. I did that for a couple of years. And then Father John McLaughlin had a need to have his churches take, it's That's who I do it for Father John.
Yeah.
He actually wrote me a reference letter. I don't know if you guys got it.
We did.
But so I've been doing that for a while. And you know what, with my business, my company got subcontracted to do a lot of property maintenance projects with CBRE, with Cummings Park, for all sorts of property maintenance that you can think of, so for a long time. Yeah.
Assembling and maintaining productive teams is important. Describe a situation that demonstrates your ability to build a cohesive, productive team.
I feel like I've been doing that my entire life. And I mean, like either from being a captain, writing for a newspaper, being the manager of a morning show where you have personalities that I can't even describe to you guys, the egos that you're dealing with in those rooms for a young 20-year-old to try to manage a former Boston Bruin, Lyndon Byers, and Greg Hill, who's now the host of a really successful morning show. You get these guys together, you communicate, right? So the best way to say that is when you're looking at a team, you're going to look at safety, you're going to look at service, you're going to look at efficiency, and you're going to look at communication. And you pull these guys together and explain everything to them and build the right guys by nurturing them in a good situation for them to win. Always making sure your team can win, but I've always led, with my trash company, 20 people working for me, and what I would do with them is they come to work for me, and then I would write recommendation letters to get them better jobs, and then they wouldn't want to leave because they couldn't understand, why are you trying to get me a better job? Don't you want me to work here? I want you to better yourself. I want you to be better. I want you to get promoted. I don't want you to be stuck putting trash on the back of the truck for the rest of your life. It's a good job, but I want you to be the manager. So you build relationships with everybody, learn their personalities, learn their skill set, and have a goal with communication to get them to a better place, if that helps. But I've had experience with that with my businesses for a long time. So.
Tell us a time you had to deal with a difficult person in order to get the job done. What happened?
So I'll give you an example. My business partner, this was a very difficult situation. Got into an argument with a transfer station that was giving me a rate of $100 per ton, and that's an amazing rate. Cities probably get that, maybe it's like 70. And he got into an argument with the manager there, and the manager basically said, see you later, you guys are at $300, per ton now. That'll kill your business, you're done. You're dead in the water. And I'm doing a project that we're demoing. At the time, we were demoing a historic building in Somerville, which we were demoing the inside, and then we're moving it back, I don't know, half of football fields because you couldn't take down the structure. And I needed that rate because that's what I did the project at. If I had to get rid of that stuff at $300 a ton, I would have sunk me. So he was being difficult. The transfer station guy was being difficult. And I brought everybody together, sat down, and I said, guys, we're grown men. I looked at my partner and said, hey, I know you're really upset, but we're going to lose this money. I broke down the numbers for him. I said, this is how much money we're going to lose because I got to use an appropriate word, because you're upset. And then I went in and I showed the transfer station how much business we did with them in the past year. And I said, you're willing to lose all this business over a disagreement. And then we came together, it got squashed, we finished the project, we kept the rate, and we moved forward.
Describe a situation where you made an important decision that you knew, regardless of what you decided, would be controversial.
Being here.
Explain.
I've only been with the DPW for 2 years, and the three guys that I mentioned have been here for a really long time. 25 years, 20 years, 10 years. And I knew that my decision to put my name in here was going to upset a lot of people, especially if I was in this room. And that was a tough decision to make, but I know this is what my purpose is. So I made the decision to put my name in, and here I am.
Discuss the familiarity and experience with the implementation of Chapter 90 funds.
So I've never myself put in for Chapter 90 funds, but I do know what Chapter 90 funds are. This is money that the city's going to get paid back for road projects, sidewalk projects, and it also can cover equipment that goes with that. We do the work first, we get the money later. That's my extent with it. I've never put a permit for it, or asked or requested for the funds.
Let me see. You told us about your education and the degree.
Yeah, I went
Do-
to Middlesex with a degree in communications.
Yep. And do you have experience with environmental permitting? If so, please describe which area in particular.
My extent on environmental stuff, I did take environmental classes while I was in college, and I jokingly had said to Jay that I have a vernal pool that's named after me in Drake. But I am in front of, in the city of Revere, in front of the Conservation Committee a lot, and talking about the environmental issues that happen in my neighborhood, because I live on a marsh, and a lot of my neighbors are trying to do work down there that they're not allowed to do. So I'm pretty up to speed, at least in my area, when it comes to the environmental things that have to be done, or the order of conditions for something like a driveway, or even putting in, you know, you can't even fill your backyards. I deal with it a lot, but I haven't personally pulled a permit for me, but I've helped pull permits for people in my neighborhood for things like driveways, permeable surfaces, to try to put fill, to try to get their houses out of a flood zone. But I do it with help of either an attorney or an engineer.
Tell us how you juggle multiple responsibilities, I think you already have, while dealing with the unexpected needs that arise in your day.
I feel like that's when I'm at my best. The more I have, the better I do. And I don't really I don't feel pressure, I don't get frazzed by things, I slow things down. I really have a belief that if you panic under pressure, the outcome's not gonna be good. It's gonna be a tough situation. So the first thing you can do is just calm down and breathe out. And I'll just give you an example of something that just happened recently. I'll give you two. The other day, and the foreman will remain nameless because he's a great guy, but the other day, the highway foreman and the supervisor weren't around. Work got delegated and a tree fell. And then the situation got, we're gonna shut this down and we have to do this, we have to get over to the tree, because having a tree in the middle of the road needs to get taken care of like that. And I had just said to the foreman, I said, hey, deep breath. We're still gonna, because the truck for asphalt was on the way, it's like, the truck's gonna come. Tell the tree foreman to go over and take a look at the situation. He'll come back, he'll probably take me, I'll go, because we can't lose our operator. We need to keep finish this, we didn't need to stop. And then that's what we did, we sent the tree foreman over, he came back, grabbed me, we took care of the situation, just calmly. Another situation actually just popped up. I was working at the Alta Vesta, it's like 7:30 in the morning, my son calls me, panicking, Dad, there's water all over the place. And I'm like, all right, calm down, what happened? He's like, it's coming from the tank. I'm like, what, the water tank? He's like, yep. I'm like, all right, deep breath, is the water still coming out? Now I'm coming out of a hole. I go, calm down. What you want to do is there's a turn off valve over here. It's right up on top. There's only one. Cold water goes in, hot water goes out. Breathe. He's like, it's everywhere. And I'm like, just turn it off, bud. Turn it off. Walk him through all the stuff he needs to do while I'm leaving the job site. And while I was leaving the job site, coming home, calling a plumber to get over there to take care of it, my picture window smashed. I don't know how that happens, but at the same time, that goes. I don't freak out. I call my boss and tell him I apologize that I had to leave. Call a contractor, get that taken care of, this taken care of. Done. No panicking. We can't panic.
Is there anything else that you feel is important for us to know about you, or that you would like to elaborate on or clarify?
I really love this job. I love working here. I've had a lot of great jobs in my life, and I've had a lot of really good opportunities. And the past 2 years, I can't say it enough. They're working for the city of Woburn, my hometown, and the people that I know, my family's here, my friends here, everybody I went to high school lives here. And I take great joy in being here and helping the residents of this city. There's nothing more than I would love to do than to make sure that the residents, my friends, my family, the taxpayers get the most for their dollar. And I'm a dog, meaning I'm 24 hours a day. I'm nonstop. I'm a hard worker. There may be smarter people to come in here and sit in front of you. You will not find somebody that works harder than me. And when I'm passionate about something like I am about this city and stepping up and being here, I don't think you guys will find somebody like that. just to speak from, that's coming from the heart. I absolutely love it, yeah. So,
Okay. I'm going to open it up. Anybody for questions? Yes, Councilor DeMambro.
Anthony, tell me what experience you might have with AutoCAD, GIS, Word, Excel, any type of programming software, any correlation to any type of budgeting or anything like that.
I've been
That's
doing-
part of the job too. Field experience, you got that. Now we gotta get into the.
yeah, I with my real estate investment company, I do all the budgets. And these budgets, I mean, you're talking, let's say, I do 10 houses in a year, let's just say the house's ARVs are 500, after repair value is 500,000, and you do 10, that's $5 million budget for the year that you have to plan out. And I do all that. You have to set, what the cost is for everything, cost to buy, all us for each house, and then I submit it to a hard money guy. So budgeting and Excel, that's easy for me. I've done that for, I guess, 32 of my own houses, and then I used to do it for the other franchises. But to step that up a notch, while I was at Homevestors, right off the bat, maybe about a year in, they put me in charge of the $10 million budget for advertising in Boston. And then nationally, after being in the business for, I want to say 4 years, I was one of the 3 people in charge of a $100 million budget for advertising nationwide. And we have to come up with a budget as to where that money's going in. We have to stay on target. I mean, ideally, you want to come in under budget, but at worst, you want to be on budget. So Excel spreadsheets, not a problem. I use numbers though from, which is an Apple program, but they're compatible. Word, no problem. My AutoCAD skills are, I can do a driveway, if that makes sense. I had to do it once for a septic tank because I couldn't get the engineer. I had a house in Harwich that I was doing, and you had to show them how many rooms you have or how big of the tank, and I didn't know. But it's rudimentary. But I'm really good with computers. When I was in radio, I learned a really sophisticated editing program called Pro Tools. The thing's a boss. I can learn stuff like that pretty easily, and I feel confident if I had to learn it or take a class to get better at it, it wouldn't be a problem.
Thank you, Madam Good.
Who just told, President Dillon.
Thank you. Anthony, from your current residence now, how long does it take you to come to Woburn?
That's a good question, because it is important. In the morning, 25 minutes, there's no traffic. But there are times where I've got called, like, let's say a tree's down. It's the longest it's taken was 45 minutes. That was at like 5 o'clock rush hour. During snow, I've tried to time myself. I get here about 5 minutes. I go easy on the road. So,
Very good. Next question I have for you. Throughout your many careers up until this point, would you say you're more geared to working in the office or more hands-on out in the field?
that's a tough question to answer because I've done both. And my ideal goal with my businesses and when they grew from taking $8,000 to turning it into a business that was generating, now just so you know, just because you generate $1 million in revenue doesn't make you make $1 million. You might make 100 grand. 10% is a high five. But the best way to grow your business is to work on your business and not work in it. So can I do the work of running a DPW? Yes, and I'm learning. But the best way, I think, to make the DPW run efficiently is to work on the DPW instead of working in it. That's when my businesses took off. When I decided to put the hammer down and start working on the operations of my businesses, that's when they excelled.
So up until now, what would you say?
I think my best skill set is being someone that works on the business as opposed to being a laborer. I have to. That's when I went from, working in my business and I got out of the business and that's when they grew. So my skill set is best being in a leadership role.
I'm good, thank you.
Councilor Viola.
What's your biggest weakness and how do you overcome it?
Wanting to do too much, I think, is my biggest weakness. We'll speak to the council president's thing. It's gonna be really tough if I get this job, to not hop in a hole, because I love to work. So I try to find other ways. This is when I start taking the deputy superintendent job and making it bigger, because instead of being in a hole and wanting to work with the guys, I go, okay, how can I get grants to help out the DPW, even though I don't know if that's what the deputy currently does, or how can I do this and this, and I just, that's my biggest weakness, is I want to do more, literally. Now, on the flip side, at least I know when to ask for help. That's the truth, but that's the biggest setback.
Councilor Papalato?
Well, I love your enthusiasm. Well, you're riveting to listen to. I'm a big proponent of hiring from within, and I look back to some of the prior deputy superintendents, and I'll go to Tucker Quinn and of course Lenny Burnham.
He's a good guy.
Phenomenal. They did a phenomenal job in their roles, but they were in those roles for a long time, and you're only in there for 2 years. So how will that be received by your peers, and how will you overcome that?
So I've been in this situation before. I would say at this point, I think I have the bond, if that's what you're asking. I get along with all the guys, pretty tight with all the guys. I'm tight with the guys that other guys aren't tight with. So me personally, I don't have any hate, Michael. And I get along with all these guys. I work hand in hand with them. I work on the tree crew, I work on the storm drains, I work on sewers. I've done water main breaks, you name it, I'm on that crew. I've worked with everybody down there, including the guys at the cemetery. So I get along with all the guys, even though I've been there for 2 years, and I think it's because I'm a workaholic. Like, for example, I have 300 hours of overtime. I haven't turned down a single hour. Last week I did, though, because I wasn't around I went and golfed in the Revere Firefighter Golf Tournament, and then I golfed with the mayor in the Woburn Fire Golf Tournament the other day, so that kind of got me out of overtime. But I think they respect my work ethic.
Do you feel like there'll be pushback from within as a result of picking a newbie?
No, I don't. I think most of the guys respect me. I will say maybe the 3 that did not get put here will have a tough time with it for a little bit, but they will see my work ethic like they have before. Actually, one of the guys, and he'll remain nameless, when I first started, said, oh, I don't want that guy in my crew. Up until I was working with him over at the police station, he said, if I knew how hard you worked, I would have had you on my crew from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, every boss has detractors out there, right? There's no question about it. All bosses aren't loved by everybody. So you'll never get to that point. I know Jay probably is, but beyond Jay.
No, I have a way of working, so I'm very patient when it comes to dealing with situations. This happened to me when I was 20. At 20 years old, I got a job of being the boss of guys who worked in an industry for a really long time, and a ton of people got overlooked, a lot. I went right into it, and the very people that were upset with me ended up becoming my best workers, my best employees, best producers and assistant producers, because I don't try to talk them into being my buddy. I work.
But you'll never get everyone on board with what you do, no matter how good.
I mean, I don't
you
know
are.
that you can ever do that.
And as long as you've got a vast majority of people following you, you're okay, and you feel like you'll get there quickly.
I think they're there now. I think a lot of the guys are with me, yeah.
Okay,
I
thank you.
do.
Any other questions? All right, we are all set. Anthony, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I honestly, guys, I'm gonna hang, so
Okay, have a great night.
I'll be right behind you. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I think it's important that we look at what the position is required. So just take a minute to look at what we put out there for the deputy superintendent, what we were looking for. So if you have your papers, if everybody can take a look. Okay, so I think that we're going to just, honestly, just start discussing. We'll go to each candidate, and we'll discuss each one. There were three wonderful candidates, which I think is great. So why don't we start with Melissa Miguel? Does anybody want to start on her? Yes.
I just think she has a lot of experience and a lot going on. Strength wise, I think, with her chapter 90, it's different here.
Yeah.
So while she had a lot of experience working with chapter 90, the total complete streets program, I think they get a lot more funding in Cambridge than we've had in that regard. I think we've gotten maybe a few $100,000 if that, Jay.
Chapter 90.
Yeah, chapter 90, but the complete streets, I think that's a grant we try to get every year, but
limited.
yeah, 500,000, so. I mean, that only goes so far, I'd assume, in Cambridge. Other things that I thought were strengths with hers is she seems like a problem solver. But again, the outlying thing is it's a different structure in Cambridge, but
Yeah.
the engineers working with DPW, but there's also a lot of them with different roles and state aid folks and state aid engineers and all that stuff. So I think for me, I think she's very qualified when it comes to the engineering piece. If we're looking for an administrator, engineer type to be in that position. Somewhat lacking in the field experience in the sense of having physically done the work, but she seems to prioritize getting out there. But I just think that the different structure in Cambridge, I'm not sure of the exact fit in Woburn, the way we structure it. But again, are we looking for someone who's in the field, someone who's foreman type, or someone who's more of an administrator, engineer type that deals with a lot of permitting? I think that's the key question.
So
especially
should
with
I
the
bring
total
up the superintendent to answer that question?
I don't think it, personally, I just think that's,
Oh,
based on the applicants we have tonight, I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves.
yeah, right. Counselor Dillon.
Thank you. I think Councilor Demers hit pretty much where I was going to go as well. I think if we had an opening in the engineers department, I'd be staring her right in there.
Yeah.
She seems to be very well qualified, but particularly for more in the engineering department. And from my experience attending the many meetings I have over the last couple of years, almost 2 years, with Mayor Concanon in the department heads meeting, I saw a lot of what the Assistant Deputy Public Works does. And I'm not sure that she has the experience in that particular position.
Yeah, which is necessary, yeah. Yes, Counselor Toro.
I'm just gonna, just to be on record too, I'm gonna echo a lot of what Councilor Demers and Councilor Dillon, President Dillon mentioned, is the one thing, she's, has a great resume, all three do. But interviewing for the deputy superintendent, I was looking more for someone with more field experience, not the administrative office experience. And I feel like that's what she fits. Again, that city engineer type of vibe is what I got from her. Minimal experience in the facility maintenance, maybe not so much with the water treatment and sewer operations. I like that she does oversee the Chapter 90 funds, but Councilor Demers did say kind of a little bit different in Cambridge and even Somerville than Woburn. Would love to see her in the engineer's office working with Alex, but not necessarily the deputy superintendent position.
Counselor Dillon.
One,
Counselor Viola.
so I want to go on record, same thing as the other councilors have said. Great candidate for the engineering department. whereas this is a job for DPW Deputy Superintendent. She's also put in for it previously 14 years ago, she said. And it doesn't seem like she has any more real-world experience, like out in the daily work, compared to more office. So, thank you.
Councilor Papalato.
Great skills, she's a mismatch for this job, in my opinion, with what her experience is and what the job is. And I don't think it's the right match.
Councilor DeMambro.
I'm on board with the rest of the council, you said. It's more, I believe, again, as in with President Dick, said in many of the mayor's department head meetings. And deputy superintendent needs to be Johnny on the spot pretty much all over the city. Whether it's, buildings, whether it's recreation, whether it's streets, roads, intersections, sidewalks that need to be repaired, tree work, water, sewer, the treatment plant. I mean, there's also, outbuildings throughout the city that she needs to be, advanced with. And I'm sorry, but she just doesn't. Those qualifications she's lacking. The rest of her resume is exceptional, and I agree with all of my fellow councilors. This was an engineering position, absolutely. I think it's fall rated. That's my 2 cents.
Councilor
Along
Pearl.
the same lines, I would suggest there's as many people at her level in Cambridge as there are in our whole DPW. The bosses and the managers, I mean, just looking at the police department, there's such a infrastructure of bosses. And I'd suggest in the DPW level, a supervising engineer, assistant supervising engineer, 2 engineers, before you even get to anybody that knows where the shuttles are. And that's just the same way everybody else just said.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way as you all do. I mean, her extraordinary resume, extremely qualified, exceptional knowledge, but once again, concerned about coming from Cambridge, and Woburn really is different. It's set up differently. The amount of employees that they have working compared to what we have is very different. And once again, the field, her field work, as much as it sounds like she is out a lot, it's still not quite what I think it is that we're looking for. If, as many of you said, if she was coming for an engineer's position, oh my goodness, I mean, tremendous. So to me, I would not move her forward to the next stage of voting for the city council. So let's go to our next person, which is Michael Page. Who would like to start? Yeah, Councilor Dillon.
I think he had more of a balance between being out in the field, being more hands-on, and yet he certainly had the education and the degree. Certainly, he didn't have everything on our list, but he seemed more than willing to learn. With the structure we have now, with the people in place, I think with the 3 in front of us tonight, he should certainly be one of what I feel 2 that should be considered. My take on it.
I agree with Jeff.
Okay. Councilor Toro?
Another great resume. Good interview. Couple concerns, just specifically for the position as deputy DPW superintendent. Seems a little green in some of the key areas that I think are important. Lack of experience in supervising people. No experience in the snow operations, and these are all job description
What was
details.
the last thing, I'm sorry, you said?
No experience in snow
Oh,
operations.
no. Yeah.
No facility maintenance. Some design phase knowledge on water treatment and sewer operations, which I guess is not a bad thing. Looking at, not much experience with Chapter 90 funds or funding. These are all important things listed right in our job description that I think we need to pay attention to. Again, great resume. I'm not saying anything bad about the resume, but specific to the deputy superintendent. Another thing, again, not being in the DPW, I feel like this person has to be vocal and out there and lead the team. He mentioned himself, again, not a bad thing generally, but passive. But if you read his references too, one of them specifically, soft-spoken, quiet person, conservative. Personally, doesn't strike me as a deputy superintendent, just up front, right? My opinion. Again, there's other things that are great. The road design, the utility design, that's fantastic. The permitting process and the coordination with departments, all great things. I definitely think he is more balanced than the first candidate. Is it enough? To kind of touch on the last round that we had in the former process, right, when we interviewed the former deputy. Obviously, we're here now wasn't the best option, I guess, but I felt more confident in that person. When that person came in, I was like, I like this. You know what I mean? Again, I'd say this with no disrespect to the candidates. I don't feel that way here, personally.
Councilor Papalato?
I agree with everything you said, Rob. I totally am on board with that. I mean, he is an engineer, and that's a good thing, but it's not a requirement of the job.
Yeah, it is.
To
An
take
advanced
Jay's
degree.
job, that's a requirement of that job. It's not a requirement to be the deputy. But it's great experience that he had there. He's done a lot of things, not a lot within the municipalities. I wouldn't discount him, but I also don't, I wouldn't anoint him as we sit here right now.
Councilor Viola?
I'm going to echo both things that Councilor Toro and Councilor Papalato said, where he actually just brought up, there's a valid point that having the advanced degree in civil engineering, it's not, you don't need it, it just says it's preferred. I do agree, it's a great resume we have here, but I think being very passive, we need somebody that's going to be out there, somebody's going to be a go-getter, somebody that's going to try and rally the troops when you have a huge water main break, or if the DPW superintendent's unavailable, that'll be able to get everybody there to work. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Councilor DeMambro.
I understand the sentiments of everyone. This is a tricky position.
tricky.
It's a difficult position, and I do agree. You have to be strong-spoken, but you also need field experience. You got to be able to go out there and take charge. You have to be able to lead the crews. If our superintendent, for whatever reason, maybe he's on vacation for a week, maybe he goes to Aruba in the middle of the winter, and there's all kinds, all hell breaks loose in the city with storms and sub-zero temperatures and a water break. You got to be able to jump in and again, command and lead the troops, especially when it's sub-zero and, it's the wind's howling and the snow's flying. But I also see on the flip side, he's a loyal employee. I mean, his resume speaks, he's been with Griffin Engineering for quite a while. I mean, that can't be unnoticed. So I see the loyalty, and I also like the fact he has strong computer skills. The AutoCAD surveying, he can take a transit, he can shoot a grid, he can see. I think some of the other aspects, building controls too. We have to keep in mind about building controls and this and that. So he does have some of what we're looking for. I don't think he has the full 100%. I think he's probably, I would say, 75%. So I might feel comfortable putting him on to the next stage. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Did I call you already,
Yeah.
Bill? Oh, yes, Councilor DeMambro.
No, I just think the way we, looking at his background, his resume, pretty solid. I mean, the thing I liked was the stormwater talk. To talk about the environmental permitting experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because that's something that's very important in Woburn.
It
We
is.
also have a new city engineer that wants to be doing a lot more in the city on stormwater. So I think that's a strong strength. Does it quite balance out to some of the weaknesses? I mean, snow operations are a big deal. Even moderate experience on snow operations will go a far way. When it comes to the type of leadership style or, what type of, whether soft-spoken or loud-spoken, I'd only caution that, not all avenues or not all situations require leadership through being a boisterous character or talking or, demanding leadership based on your personality. I think there's ways of getting respect, being someone who's soft-spoken, who doesn't engage in
Absolutely.
confrontation,
Absolutely.
and who wants to get everybody to work together. So I think that that's a strength that we can't look at it as, I don't think we can necessarily look at it as a negative because we don't know how these folks work with other folks, because we haven't seen it. So I think I'd just caution my colleagues on that take, just because, and I respect it. I mean, if you're looking for a certain type of person to fill a leadership role and you have that mindset of who would be a good leader in that role, all for it. But I just think, let's not look at it as a negative without kind of knowing how that person interacts with other people and solves issues and gets people to work together. I did like, some of the other experience though, in terms of, dealing with unruly folks. When you tend to get it from all ways in different life's positions that you get put in. And I think, having somebody who's dealing with something and then addressing a problem immediately. I think that goes to what I'm trying to say in terms of the leadership aspect, where if you're, don't let something fester to the end of a project or something internally in the DPW that could be a problem. Kind of address it ahead of time so that, everybody's on the same page and it's honest and forthright. So I don't know, I think it's a tough decision, but I think if we were to move two forward, the qualifications and the mix of experience, and I would think Michael Page would be in one of the two that we would send to the full council.
Councilor Torre?
Yeah, thank you.
I
Just
wasn't
to,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure.
So just to touch on that, I'm not looking for anyone to come in and
No.
verbally assault our
I
DPW
wouldn't say that
employees,
you were
right?
saying-
Like, I'm talking about a strong personality, so just to be clear, that's number one. Number two, and this is more of a procedural thing, and just want to throw this out there. As a council, do we need to take an action to send people forward? That's question one. Part two is,
Well, look to
if
me,
we
because-
wanted to interview more, can we do that as well?
Okay, look to me, and I'll tell you. Yes.
Sure, I'm looking at whoever wants to.
Okay, yes and yes. So we do not have to move anybody forward tonight. We can keep it in committee, and we can ask to see other candidates.
It just, for me, and I'm speaking just
believe.
from,
You know what? I said that.
I think that's a question that I would want answered, because to me, listening to everybody speak about these candidates, and this is just my take on everyone's responses. All I hear is, I don't hear anyone saying slam dunk. And I hear, out of these three candidates, and
We
do
could
we?
build one out of those three.
Yes, and the question becomes is, not that our former was a mistake, right? But do we want to, this could be a person in the position for a while. Do we want to, and again, no disrespect to any of these candidates, do we want to take the best candidate available in front of us right now? And are we comfortable doing that? We have other candidates that didn't move forward. I'm not saying Michael could not be the deputy. Not saying that that's not the case. But
If I may, what I
Sure.
would say is, before we get into more of a holistic discussion of what we're gonna decide? Can we get to the third?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I just want, as we're starting to get into
Yeah.
the discussion about the third people, I think that needs to be on people's minds, so you're not making a decision thinking we have to choose these three. That's what I'm saying.
As far as I know, we do not. We do not. I mean, there is no, we can keep it and,
Yeah, so the rules of the, Rule 34 for appointments, it states that, the Committee on Personnel, sitting as a committee as a whole, shall conduct final interviews of 3 candidates and shall select not more than 2 candidates to be referred to the full city council to final action. So the committee as a whole cannot see more than 3 candidates. Which is what.
no, we're not gonna move forward. We can't move forward more than,
Well, no,
No,
yeah, the Committee on Personnel,
yeah, can't,
made up by myself, you.
oh, yes.
And Councilor Toro, by our rules, city council rules, cannot move more than 3 candidates forward
To
to the
this,
committee.
correct.
So once we get to this level, there's no going back for secondary review, because we have put forth
Already
3
put
candidates
forward.
to final interviews.
So the other thing that happened here is when all the candidates beyond these 3 were first brought in, and there was a screening process. That Jay was involved, and I'm not sure who else was involved. And what I believe we were told is, we are gonna get qualified candidates.
Correct.
Qualified candidates. So that means whoever deemed these 3 people to sit before us are qualified candidates.
Correct. Yes,
So, I mean,
Yes.
I don't know what the rules are, if we can go back and change that.
no, I mean, now that we
They were all
just heard that,
qualified 2 weeks
because
ago,
we've
so.
already moved forward the 3, I was thinking because we hadn't voted to move them to the city council, the final.
And, you know, I mean, for clarification, the ordinance is right here.
Yeah,
We have the ordinance.
And
It says the deputy superintendent of public works shall be appointed by the city council with a recommendation of the superintendent of public works and the human resources director.
yeah, so just to explain, and
So that-
especially for
that- I
people
want that
who
to
are
be known that that
listening.
process occurred
Yes.
to
so-
get us here.
Yeah, so people at home, if, when they see this, they understand that that process already took place by the superintendent of public works, our HR director. They met with 7 candidates that they interviewed, and they brought forward 3. No, excuse me.
we met with 6.
We met with, yeah, you did, and then we went into executive session, and then we met, we discussed, and we got to 3. And that's where we are right now with the 3 that we have. So everybody at home understands that. So yes, let's go to the next person as well, but I do want to just touch on briefly about, once again, something that Councilor Demers said about somebody's leadership style. Being more soft-spoken, in my view, is a strength. Because that person does not spout out the first thing that comes into their minds. They have restraint, they think about what is going on, and then they assess the situation and they decide, is this something I need to go ahead and speak about? That's a real strength. But I also know what you're saying, Councilor Toro, about whether it's to the point where will he feel comfortable enough to actually address the situation, which we do need, because he will be the deputy superintendent. And I do believe from what he said that he will be, but this would also be something, if he moved forward, I would like to ask more questions about, that style and being comfortable enough to address serious issues or conflicts in the workplace. But, yeah, so any other questions or comments about Michael? No? Okay, so let's go on to Anthony. Okay. All right, who would like to, President Dillon?
Sure. I think when we look at what's in front of us tonight, and now we're looking at Anthony, he may not have the level of degree or education that the other two have. May not have the experience, but I think he certainly should be put in the running with Michael Page. And my reasoning for saying that is he has the passion. And sometimes when somebody makes a point about willing to work so hard and has proven that, albeit in somewhat of a short couple of years stage with the city, that has to be noted. One of the things he said, that he's willing to learn more and willing to further his education. Sometimes on-the-job training works out very well. So I don't know that I'm willing to make a vote tonight between Anthony and Michael, but I think they're pretty close, in my opinion, and they both should be looked at a little further than just tonight. That's what I.
Councilor DeMambro?
What I appreciate about Anthony is his enthusiasm, his high energy.
Yeah.
The fact that he wants to be in any role that he's given, and he'll give it his full effort. That speaks a lot. These aren't easy jobs. Not one job down there is an easy job. There's no fluff. So the fact that he's willing to do that, I am in agreement with President Dillon. I believe that you can learn on the job, but there are areas of the engineering, and again, our city is so complex with our utility situation, our infrastructure. You gotta know what's going on, especially up in, my ward. There's so much going on right now. With underground utilities and then the infrastructure and with the bridge project and buildings up there, commercial. So, I truly, truly admire and respect the energy, the enthusiasm, the dedication, the commitment. I truly appreciate that. That's a tough commodity to get these days, and I hear it all the time. There's really not a good pool out there to pull from when it comes to that character, caliber of person. So, and again, I feel like other councils. I don't think I'm ready to vote tonight on a finalist, but in my eyes, he has possibly the potential to learn on the job. Is it everything we need? I'm not so sure. But that enthusiasm really got me. Thank you.
Councilor Papalato?
Thank you. There's no perfect candidate here, right? There's great candidates, and I take nothing away from any of you guys. Nobody is the perfect package for what we're looking for. But I think there's a lot of benefits to hiring people in-house. And I'll go back to what I said before. When you look at Tucker Quinn and you look at Lenny Byrne, and I bet you there's a lot of people complaining about them when they were selected, and they did pretty good for themselves. And the effect that has on the other people in the department, there's a reason that the committee skewed it down to these three and specifically one from in-house. So Jay was part of that process, and he picked a 2-year veteran over whatever the numbers were, 20, 30, whatever the years were. There has to be a reason he picked him. So he has trusted him as well. So I just feel like it's a good thing to have that experience. It's a good thing to see if you work hard and you do a good job, you're going to get recognized and rewarded for other things. Because we went through the Rennie experience, and he did a good job for what he did. But guess what? He's not here anymore. He's not walking through that door, as they say. So there's a huge benefit in my mind to hire from within.
Anyone else? Counselor Viola? I think I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. Counselor Viola?
I agree that not one candidate is perfect, not one candidate is 100% where we want them to be. I definitely think that there's probably two candidates that we would put forward. There's one definitely that I wouldn't put forward, that I don't think they have enough boot on the ground experience or just enough knowledge about the city and different things that go on within it. But I definitely think there's a good thing hiring from within. You always should look within first, then work your way out. So that would be my 2 cents.
Anyone else? Yes, Counselor Demers.
No, just to echo it, you can sit there and look for the perfect candidate all the time. We just recently thought we had one,
Yeah, we did.
and now we're back at square one here again. When it comes to Anthony, just the personality of it, the go-getter of it. You look at a resume, yeah, it's wide experience through different lenses. But we've also had previous DPW deputy superintendent that may have worked at the DPW, but they didn't have the experience per se of being down in a hole or replacing a water line or dealing with the water systems or sewer or highway. And they ended up being very effective at the job that they were put in there to do. So I think that that's a consideration that we need to keep. The other thing with Anthony is in his packet, what he provided with his resume, he also included what he thought the administrative duties of the deputy superintendent should be, and put together basically a proposal for our review to show exactly what he would be focusing on throughout his role as the deputy superintendent. I don't think any candidate presented any other documentation to that effect to show that they're already thinking about what they would do on day one. I'd give them points for that. The experience item at that DPW, yeah, that is a weakness on Mr. Paziali's side here, but I think he's a go-getter. He's earning the respect of his colleagues down there. He's done multiple types of jobs down there. He just hasn't been part of one team for 15 to 20 years. So I look at that and I think that that's a benefit because he's willing to do all the jobs of the people that he would be leading. So I also concur that, I think maybe tonight we move forward to the full committee, the full council, and we marinate on what we've heard this evening because everybody was a little bit different tonight. It wasn't where everyone checked off every box of the job description because I don't think any candidate did. And I don't think any other, and if we were to consider additional candidates, I think it would be a fool's error in trying to make sure that they were gonna check off every box on there because I don't think that exists. We're dealing with what we have in front of us. And I know, there was a lot of discussion of the strengths and weaknesses, but we heard a lot tonight. There was a lot of information to consume, so I think maybe sending two forward, sitting on it, and making a decision next Tuesday night is probably the most prudent, based on what I've heard from everybody else.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I would just like to just briefly about Anthony, his energy and his love for life is infectious, which is, gosh, to have somebody like that being a deputy and working with you is wonderful. And he is lacking in some of the other details of what is needed for the position, but he also had his own company where he had 20 people working for him. So that's a lot of knowledge. That's definitely something to be able to do that and work. Leadership, absolutely. Yeah, and that's huge. A little concerned, reading of plans, blueprints, because I know Jay said that's something that really was important. I think he has good communication. Seems like he's going to be able to work with everyone. once again, we bring up Lenny a lot, but, you know, he ended up being a great deputy superintendent. And he did not check all the boxes. And I do think we have to remember that. But I also would again like to hear from Jay. It doesn't, maybe at the city council meeting, unless you feel that it's something we want to hear tonight. I guess I would like to hear again, which strengths are more important for them? Something like you were saying. What is more important? The reading the plans and the blueprints, or having the feet on the ground, being able to go right into the ditch? With everybody? What strength is he really looking for as the deputy superintendent? Where would it be most helpful? But I also think that we should move the two forward, but we can talk about that in a second. Yeah,
It's just
President Dillon.
one thing to clarify perhaps. I think Anthony does have the experience reading blueprints with his background and doing work in different homes. I'm sure that he knows how to read blueprints.
Yeah, but I think he talked about not quite having like engineering plans and
Not
stuff.
reading blueprints. and
Okay,
being
I
an
went, okay,
engineer.
I said plans and blueprints. I meant the
I
engineering.
got you. Thank you.
Yeah, the engineering plans. So how important is that? Is that weighed really high in Jay's mind, or is it not?
And is that a skill that can be acquired?
Or is that a skill? Because obviously, Anthony
Bless you.
has shown that he can learn things and he can learn things quickly, which really is a
Right.
gift,
I agree.
to have somebody like that. So, yeah. So I actually wouldn't mind if I know it's late, even if we just took 5 minutes to have Jay come up and just outline for us, if he wants to tonight, or we can wait till the city
I
council
think it
meeting.
would be important if we narrow the scope of the comments, just to make sure that it's about the qualifications of the position.
Yes.
Not to lend to personalities.
We get Sean.
I have a question, well, I have a question about the process we're talking about, because in the past, for me, any appointments for the council would have made the vote to only bring one person forward, so I just have a question, for clarification, if you guys go to bring two people to the council, is the expectation that those people would be interviewed again in that meeting?
Yes.
Okay. There might be a scheduling conflict with one of the candidates, they might be out of the country. We might have to have a special meeting. Yeah, all right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Jay, you mind coming up and speaking to us? Because I think
Questions.
this is going to help clarify things in
Madam
our
Chair.
minds.
Can you stop for a minute?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think our rule states we send two candidates to the meeting and then we would have voted.
Yeah, but we
Because it's a
usually,
committee report.
We have to act on the.
And we're acting as a committee as the whole right now.
Yeah,
So-
so the rules read directly that the committee on personnel sitting as a committee of the whole shall conduct final interviews of the three candidates, shall select no more than two candidates to be referred to the full city council for final action.
So final action being the final vote.
right, but nothing says that we can't be asking them questions about themselves and they could reiterate their strengths. I feel like we've done that in the past. I know
I mean,
we
if we were
have.
to send two candidates back, we have time to get a recommendation from solicitor body to make sure that we're not violating any of our own rules and state law. So
Okay.
let's go about doing that
Okay,
before we commit to having anybody at the meeting. But I also want to caution my colleagues here, if we do have Superintendent Duran up, we do have to have a motion to suspend the rules to allow him to speak tonight because he wasn't.
sure, but by
We
you,
can't deliberate with the department head after he's given us the recommendations.
say that again?
I don't think it would be appropriate to deliberate with the DPW head, if he were to come up and state that this is what I'm looking for as a DPW's deputy superintendent, that's fine, but I don't think it appropriate for him to deliberate the candidates.
No, no, I
after
don't
we've
want him to,
conducted the
no.
interviews.
No, I don't want him to deliberate the candidates. I just want him to come up to clarify.
Yeah, I just wanted that
What
out there,
he is
so
looking for.
everybody knows, because, you know, it'd be the
Oh,
Wild
no.
West of questions.
Oh, no, no, absolutely, no. And I will ask him, so we're not talking about any of these three candidates. We are just talking about the position and to clarify what would be his ideal, deputy superintendent, strengths. Obviously, we have what we sent out for people to apply for the position. I'm still questioning because I know that I've been the personnel chairman for almost 10 years. And we've had lots of positions coming through, and I know that we have had Marie Lingbroom, her position there. I know that, but maybe, did we have two or three? I'm not sure at the time. Must have been two. We were asking actual questions.
Yeah, and
So but I
we do
don't
have time
mind
between that,
asking.
but I don't think we litigate that issue this evening.
No.
We can figure that out.
No, but I just want to make
just
sure
want-
that I feel like we have done it
Just
in the
want there to be
past,
Caution.
but there's nothing wrong with being cautious. But that still means that we will move the two people forward and then ask.
Which is our rule. We're not-
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
two-
good.
Two or less.
Okay, so if we could suspend the rules, that would be great. So we
Make
could
a
have
motion to
Jay.
suspend the
Second.
rules.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have
So
it.
what exactly are we asking Jay to do?
Okay, we are asking him not to deliberate on, so Jay, if you want to come sit here, we are not asking you to deliberate on any of these candidates whatsoever. Okay, no strengths, no weaknesses, nothing. What we are looking for is for you to clarify for us, what are you looking for in the deputy superintendent of public works?
I think that, I have.
Does that make sense? I want to make sure you understand that as much as you can.
I'm just going to talk in generalities as best I can.
Absolutely, that's what we
Okay.
need.
But I was before the Personnel Committee. I think I made it very clear with the three of you, that the biggest thing that we need right now with the DPW, at least in my eyes, I know I've got great operations people. They're sitting here. Three of them are sitting here.
Which you did
Highway
say,
foreman.
yeah?
John Sotheby is the head construction superintendent, and Scott Johnson is part of the water he's second in charge of the water treatment. So there's three guys, with it, and so I would add Tony Blazejewski. I've got great operations people. I need assistance to keep this city out of non-compliance to environmental rules that are getting more stringent by the day. That's what I think, that's what I need. And that's as general as I can make it, I guess.
Okay.
I've got good operations people. I really need to get to people that know the intricacies of the environmental laws. And they're complicated. You deal with EPA, you deal with DEP, you deal with the Conservation Commission at a bunch of different levels. And you need to be aware of what all these permits are, for the stormwater control, those kind of permits, MS4, there's a bunch of those permits. When I got to the DPW 15 years ago, we had 5 administrative consent orders for DEP, 5. It was a major problem.
Yeah.
So, and they were expensive problems. So that's what I think the biggest need is. If I thought my operations guys were lacking, I would tell you. Even with them sitting here, they know that I would say that. But I know they're top-notch guys. And I know there's top-notch performance. So I don't think operations is a problem. I do think I need help with permitting. That's what I think. I think we've got a great new city engineer. He's helping along with that too. But you as this city council just changed the flooding regulations. You guys just changed it based on the things that are
We
coming
didn't have
around.
a choice.
No, I get it, but
We got him some that stuff.
this isn't going away.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not going away. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. So if we don't have a
Yeah,
act
okay.
together,
Yeah.
we're gonna pay. So, and we gotta pay, and then we're all gonna pay, I guess.
Okay.
Those
All right.
5 things that you said we were negligent on, when you first started,
Yes.
do we have any right now?
No,
So you've kind of remediated everything?
we meet within 2 years, yes.
Madam Chairman? Jay, is one of those ACO things, just, I'm not familiar with them, is that like what went on behind the police station? Where you guys
Yeah.
had to block
Behind
them?
the police station was one,
Okay.
behind the DBW was another, community gardens was the third.
Wasn't the high school one with the water meters? Didn't do that. Put them in
And
because
that
of
was-
Okay, well, let's not get off track.
Yeah.
I know we're interested,
I'm
but
gonna
let's,
make a motion to return to the, I'll make a motion to return to the
just,
regular order.
well, before that, hang on, please. I just want to make sure, does everybody feel like that clarification helped? And that do we have any other questions that we feel we need to ask Jay on that in particular?
I would caution
Okay.
that we'd be stretching
No, I
into
know.
too much deliberation.
Okay, I know.
Make a motion to return to regular order?
Could I just have one last comment?
Okay, hold on the vote.
Hang yourself with it.
Hold-
Ideally, we're, like, I'm 65. I'm not gonna be here forever. I mean, I love the city, but I'm not gonna be here forever. So ideally, we need, my replacement at some point.
Which you did say before, so, yeah, okay, great, yeah.
Make a motion to
All
return to
right.
the regular order business.
All in favor?
you.
Okay, the ayes have it. So what do we have for a vote?
So
Yes.
I would like to propose a motion. It seems like the direction of this council right now as a committee as a whole is to send 2 people to the full council. So I don't think there's any hurt in sending a request to City Solicitor Salvati for his opinion on whether or not this full council needs to select one of these 3 candidates or if there's alternative options. I don't think, it doesn't delay anything. He can give us his opinion before the full city council. And then we're going to vote at that point, and if the vote is if there's a vote that decides that, if there's no vote that we take to say one of these 2 candidates are the person, I don't think I think that decision can be made at that time, but I don't think there's any harm in asking for his opinion.
Second.
I don't,
Well,
on the
Counselor,
motion,
on the motion.
who seconded just then?
Chuck did.
Sorry. My response to that is Shauna just read it to us,
I know.
pretty clear.
I think it's very vague. And no disrespect to Shauna, but she's not our attorney. We have a city solicitor for a reason. We ask him for his opinion all the time, and it doesn't delay anything, and it just provides further clarification. It's,
so my only concern, if I may,
Please.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
My only concern is we'd be sending 2 applicants forward for final action, pending a legal ruling or legal advisory from the city solicitor. And then if that were to change minds, we'd be then coming back.
We need to
The
leave it
committee?
here if we're gonna,
We'd have to leave it, this action would have to stay here. We can't send 2 out for final action and then renege because
all we're doing is sending 2 out of the 3 based on what we think the current ordinance is, that we think these 2 are the best of the 3. Nothing says that we need to
But I
then
think the
pick
more-
that
I
person.
think the more procedural, the better procedural move, if you feel strongly enough for a legal opinion, would be to leave this matter in committee before we send anything out.
All due respect, I don't think is necessary, because then we're delaying. If our city solicitor came back and said, we have no right to do that, and we need to choose from these 2 candidates, we can make that decision at the full city council with no delay. Why delay it?
Because I'm trying to understand what our course of action would be if the city solicitor stated that we could open this up again. Where would we go then? We have 1 candidate who can't make that next meeting on the 7th anyhow.
Okay.
So leaving this in committee, reporting it out on what's today's date? We go with the 17th, the 7th and the 21st, October 7th? The 21st, I believe, is our full meetings. So a hire would occur, a job offer would happen after the 21st.
What I don't want to do is, I want reassurance that we're making the right decision,
Understood.
right? I don't want to delay the
Right.
process.
Yeah, but
My only concern is we would be procedurally sending a matter to the full city council for their vote, for our vote, asking for a legal ruling as to whether we can reopen that and back.
Okay, so I think we can take a step back at this point, put that aside. We can vote on my motion and then make a decision to leave into committee if my motion passes, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
first.
I don't think you're right, Rob. You're not right on this.
I don't think you're right.
No,
What
no,
is-
no, and I'll tell you why you're not right. Because we asked the superintendent and the HR director to bring forward they looked at the resumes, they ended up going with 7, and then 6 were interviewed. They brought 3 forward that were qualified. That is what we asked them to do. And out of their experience, and especially because Jay is the superintendent of public works, this is the person that he's working with, he knows exactly who it is he needs to do his job right. He felt these 3 candidates were the ones. And if you know with Jay, like, he won't even hire just people who are coming to work for DPW because he doesn't want to just hire somebody that isn't going to do a good job. So, no, excuse me. So if he is coming forward saying these are 3, he said they're qualified. He felt these were qualified. That means we take these 2 in a second. You take these 2 and you move them forward. And because otherwise we're saying we don't respect what you brought forward because we asked you to bring the 3 qualified that you feel are, and now we're saying, you know what? We've decided that we don't like any of these, even though we know you have to work with this person and you know exactly what qualifications are needed for a deputy superintendent. Now, I don't know how you can see it any other way, because otherwise he would have picked any of those other candidates to move forward, and he didn't. So he brought 3 forward. Hang on a second, I do believe. So I just want to make that clear. I think we are muddying the water. Our job was to bring 2 forward, and that is what we should do. I don't mind with Councilor Demers said, asking, but not your particular question, because you're talking about opening it up again to everyone.
I'm asking for a recommendation. And with all due respect to you, I put out a motion, we can vote on it. And if you don't
I
want to
know.
vote in favor of it, that's
No,
fine.
that's what I'm
But I also
telling.
respect our superintendent's position. I don't discount his opinion
Of course
in any
you
way.
are. Of
No, I'm
course
not.
you are.
If you
Because
wanna have
you're
a dis- We
saying.
can have a discussion separately.
Yeah, but you are.
You're trying to speak for me.
I'm not trying
And
to.
what I want to do is I want to make, as a business owner and as a resident of this city, I want to make sure that we're making the best decision for this city.
And he
what I'm
brought
looking
these
for
3
is
position
I'm looking
people
for clarification, I'm talking now.
Yeah.
I'm looking for clarification from our city solicitor who works for us and gives us legal opinions all the time on our ordinance to make sure us as the council are making the right decision. So I put forward a motion, ask for a vote, and if it dies, and then we're done.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely,
That's
and
it.
we will take a vote unless somebody wants to
Yeah.
take their second off.
I wasn't even stating whether I was in favor of the motion or not. I'm just stating that the procedural move here,
Correct.
if we're going to be waiting for a legal opinion, would be not to send out a committee report on the action that we're asking for a legal opinion on.
I agree with Joe.
But isn't that only if the motion
And we're only
passes?
delaying it 2 weeks.
I get it, but we're only really having that conversation, Joe, if my motion passes. My motion vote doesn't pass, then you go with the two candidates and you call it a day.
Correct.
So let's vote on the motion.
Before the vote,
But I wanted everybody to know
Yeah,
the
hang on.
procedure piece of this.
I get it.
That's
No,
all
I
I'm
get
saying.
it, yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to vote no on your
Yeah,
motion.
no, I get it. That just,
Yeah, it's just that there's a possibility that this is gonna hold things up, and I just don't know why we are doing
If it does,
this.
it does.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Hang on,
2 weeks is nothing.
okay, Counselor
just
Dillon.
before we do that, could we have Shauna read that one more time, please?
Sean, on that, that's what I was gonna ask. Can I ask you, what are you quoting from? Exactly.
Our Rule 34.
Joanne, I just asked a question.
I know.
I have a right to ask a question.
Yes, you do, and I'm the chairman, so I'm
I
telling
asked
you.
to speak to Sean.
Yeah, and it's Rule 34.
Let's all bring ourselves
Okay.
down a level.
So Rule 34, says that the Committee on Personnel, sitting as a committee of the whole, shall conduct final interviews of the 3 candidates and shall select not more than 2 candidates to be referred to the full city council for final action.
Sounds pretty straightforward to me.
It's pretty straightforward. So I don't know if you want to withdraw your second, if you're okay with that.
I'll keep my second.
You're going to keep your second? Okay, yeah, Councilor
Before we do
Dillon.
that,
Yeah,
just, if I can ask to the chair, to Rob. The hangup seems to be that it got to this point with the people in front of us. And you'd like to see more candidates. Is that how you think?
If we're gonna be fair and we're gonna be very upfront and honest, I'm not super satisfied with any of the 3 candidates.
Thank you. But do you see with that rule?
Which is all I'm looking for, is we have this verbiage, we have this ordinance, I'm not saying it's wrong, and city solicitor may come back and say, no, this is exactly how it has to go, which it will make me feel better.
I get it. I just wanted to clarify.
And what the next step is, if he says we have alternative options, we may not choose those, we may choose to stay the course.
So
But why does it hurt?
Procedurally, I think sending the request up and delaying this 2 weeks is not a big deal.
So now you,
so then, okay, so then we'll talk, if you want to do that, then that is, we have a motion.
Point of order, there was a motion made.
Yeah, and there's a
seconded,
second.
And I would request a roll call on said motion and second.
Yes.
On the motion, because I didn't get to speak.
Oh, sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Viola.
Holding crutch around.
Yeah.
So, as Jay said, that one of the things that he does want is somebody that has environmental background. I didn't hear one of these 3 candidates overwhelmingly speak of an environmental background. That's why I'm going forward with the motion and seconding on Rob's.
It doesn't hurt, we have time, it doesn't hurt us to wait. If we want to get it right, and if one of our colleague wants a legal opinion, let's get the legal opinion.
so it is.
Yeah, and if I can just say that the reason that, obviously, we will take a vote, but for me, once again, as long as it's not something where we will get the legal opinion, but where we're going to stop from the get-go
Yeah,
again.
no, and that's the debate.
Because once
that's the
again, we
debate.
did ask the superintendent, and out of respect,
Yeah.
and out of respect for the HR director,
course.
they did their job.
And I would say that
Um,
that's a debate for our next meeting when we have that legal rule, or legal advisory from the city solicitor.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, and we're going to do
I ask
roll
for
call. Okay?
Counselor Demers,
Aye.
President Dillon,
Aye.
Counselor DeMambro. Aye. Counselor Ferrullo,
Aye.
Counselor Papalardo,
No.
Counselor Toro,
Aye.
Counselor Viola,
Aye.
Chairman Campbell.
Opposed? Okay, so the votes have it, so we're going to go move forward with sending that to the city solicitor for an opinion. Okay, so, next.
Make a motion to leave the matter in committee until the next committee meeting.
Second.
Is that our best bet?
I would not want to act on anything until we received a legal
Okay.
opinion, whichever way it goes. Because I think it would be unfair to the candidates we have here this evening that may be moving forward,
Yeah,
to send them forward and then renege because we got a convenient legal opinion.
yeah,
That's just my
okay.
opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. So, did I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.